legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back to a very, very special edition of Red Pill News Live. Now, I didn't even mention this in the thumbnail or in the description, but the UFOs are dropping. The UFO files, rather, are dropping. I got Lisa pouring through them in the background. We got a couple of things we're going to talk about, but I know most people here are not as interested in that as I might be. I'm skeptical myself, I'll say that. But doesn't mean that I don't want to see everything they're probably trying to drop. We also have big news in terms of accountability within the federal government. That is the focus of my attention, and that is what we are going to be focusing on today. My bumper music disappeared. Okay, well, see if it's working right now. I need to give a big shout out to MillerBiz, who says, "Hi everyone, Red Pill 78 News on a Friday is a blessing from heaven. Go Trump, go. Free the wonderful Iranian people." Thank you so much, MillerBiz. I appreciate that generous support. Also, Unicorn 77 says, "Happy birthday." Excuse me, happy Friday. It's not my birthday. Happy Friday. Thank you for that. I also got a package today from Tanya. Thank you so much, Tanya. We're going to go over all of the goodies in that package in just a moment. What I need from you is to sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to be right back after this. Recently, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. This isn't just government spending, it's a declaration of intent, because America needs uranium, domestic uranium, and it needs it now. So here's the reality. The U.S. consumes over 50 million pounds of uranium every single year, but we produce less than 1 million pounds domestically. Obviously, that leaves America 98% dependent on foreign suppliers for our supply. It's a critical vulnerability for national security, power generation, and advanced weapons systems. With Russia controlling much of the global enrichment capacity and escalating tensions in Iran threatening nuclear supply, the stakes could not be higher, which is why the White House has made it crystal clear. America must develop its own supply chain. And this is where Kirkstone Metals comes in. They trade under KSM in Canada and KSMCF in the US. They've got decades of uranium and junior mining expertise, and Kirkstone's leadership team knows how to turn exploration projects into real value. But the question is, can they do it again? Kirkstone controls two 100% owned uranium projects strategically located in the Athabasca Basin. This is the richest uranium district on the planet. Same area, same world-class neighborhood, and at their flagship Key Lake project, drilling has already hit high-grade uranium right near the surface, but the team truly believes the real prize lies deep underground. So using a playbook based on the decade's biggest discoveries, they're hunting the massive source below. So let's talk about the Athabasca Basin. It's home to multi-billion-dollar names like NextGen Energy and Denison Mines, but the real upside, it's often the junior explorers that are operating right next door. The Athabasca Basin has delivered over 20% of the world's uranium discoveries, with an estimated $200 to $300 billion worth of uranium identified in the ground, and yet Kirkstone is still sitting at a market cap below $12 million. That's an enormous disconnect between what's found in this district and how some companies are valued today. On January 14th, the U.S. administration reinforced their commitment to domestic energy security, invoking Section 232 via an executive order. It's a formal declaration of resource independence, and it goes beyond support. It's a mandate. Energy security is now national security, and the U.S. government is deploying its full fiscal and regulatory tools to secure the nuclear fuel cycle in North America. Kirkstone Metals, trading as KSMCF in the U.S. and KSM in Canada, is strategically positioned to capitalize on this shift. Now, uranium prices have surged, and some analysts project prices could exceed $100 per pound by 2026 as demand outpaces supply. Federal momentum has already begun to translate into dollars on the ground, including billions in planned funding for domestic uranium enrichment capacity. The sector is entering one of its most active drilling seasons in years, and with its flagship drill program approved, Kirkstone has exploration underway, and they're advancing with a focus on execution. Some companies operating in the district are valued at over $10 billion, and with the U.S. pushing for domestic uranium, Kirkstone could potentially become a leading beneficiary of the reshoring mandate. So if you want to learn more about this critical mineral story and about a team that has delivered big results in the past, check out the link in the description. And a very special thanks to Kirkstone Metals for making today's video possible. All right, and welcome back, everyone. Before we get into today's news, because there is so many great things I want to talk about, let me show you all of the cool stuff that Tanya sent me. So first of all, we have an Armor of God keychain right here. I realize that none of this is there we go. I got to hold my hand up there, and then I will be able to get it into focus for you. That is super cool. We have some Trump stickers right here, which, yes, there you should be able to see. We also have a Pkwy coin card. It looks like it's a special foil card. Pretty sweet there. We also have a really touching letter that she sent me. Tanya, I won't read it on the air, but I wanted you to know that it touched my heart. And thank you so much for watching. And I'm glad that I could bring you some solace in this crazy world that we're living in. Also, there is a Valhalla Challenge coin right here on the back. It says, "Defenders of freedom, a free people ought to be armed," which is a quote from our man George Washington. You can see that right there. Pretty cool. We also have a President Trump Stanley Cup jersey. This is, I don't even know how to describe this. It's like a commemorative thing, and it shows the it says "Make Hockey Great Again," and it has the winners of the Stanley Cup, I believe, on the back there, or maybe it is the Olympians. I'm not exactly certain. I don't know a lot about sports. Also, we have a tippy top right there. That's pretty cool. Several of these Jesus Loves You little charm dolls. These are going to be all around my office. That's pretty cool as well. And then finally, the piece de resistance, a Captain America Ghost Army graphic novel. I have never read this one, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. Oh my gosh, and there's even more stickers on the inside. There's a Ghost Army sticker. There's a whole bunch of Trump dancing decals. This is totally on brand for me. So yes, I will be looking to put all of this stuff around my office here on set as soon as possible. Oh, and there are a couple of Here I Am Send Me bracelets as well. I think that's it. I think I got it all. Anyways, Tanya, thank you so much. Really, really cool. Love getting packages in the mail, and always fun to see what you guys send. Love getting letters from you as well. All right. Thank you to Moon Baby, who says, "Hola, famalam. Good to see y'all. Good to see you as well." Filter Dog says, "Page 116 from the UFO files." And I will hold on to this until we get to the section of the show where we plan to talk about the UFO files. So let me add that into my repertoire for today's program. Yes, we will. I actually sent this around to a bunch of people earlier. I'm not going to show it on screen because it's a little foul, but I definitely sent this to a couple of my buddies earlier. Filter Dog. Oh, that's fun. Okay, so first of all, we've talked a little bit about the Hantavirus PSYOP. I think it's a PSYOP. I'm not worried about it. This issue with the cruise ship that supposedly has had 3 people dead from hantavirus, and they're saying that they can't dock anywhere, and apparently everybody on the ship doesn't have access to their phones or TikTok or Instagram or X, and nobody's posting any updates. That seems really suspicious to me. But I saw this post and I thought that it was worth sharing in case anybody was afraid of perhaps getting the hantavirus. There was also an episode of X-Files that they did years ago where they talked about hantavirus. Yesterday, I showed you that post of that guy in 2022 posting that 2026 was going to be the year that hantavirus broke out. But this individual right here, Copescent, or how would I say this? Copescent Central? Yeah, Copescent, like history, CBRN, Aggie. I am not an OSINT account. Okay, but anyways, he says, I'm coming out of the private because this hantavirus thing is getting ridiculous. Before I explain the facts of the virus, here's what you really should listen. Here's why you should listen to me. Unlike most of the people on my feed, I am a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense officer. My job is to ensure that large, closely packed groups of people are not infected by diseases both endemic to the environment and manufactured by an enemy. The Andes hantavirus has an extremely low transmissibility rate. This is the one that they are suggesting the people on this ship are likely to have contracted because it's the only type that has any human-to-human transmissibility. And the area that it originates from has really primitive, like modern medical standards. I mean, we're talking about people living in the Andes Mountains. So they don't have access to a hospital or a lot of medicine or, modern medical care. So that's the only reason that you have people from that region who do contract it getting sick enough to the point where they're dying. He continues by saying, you need to be in a prolonged, close contact with someone who has it to catch it. Transmission between humans is documented, but it's so rare that it's considered exceptional. This is not a COVID. For example, common cold, that's a coronavirus, highly transmissible person to person. The 40% mortality rate is a distortion of reality. The disease is treatable, and anywhere with an adequate hospital is going to be able to save you. Rates are between 1 to 15%. This 40% rate is because the Andean hantavirus is endemic to a region with poor access to medical care. If you live in a developed country, you have nothing to worry about. And as I pointed out yesterday, the type of virus that the hantavirus is, it should respond to ivermectin or any of the drugs that are in that category. And I would, hazard a guess and say many of you in the audience probably have a supply of ivermectin on hand. The chances of this virus mutating to become more infectious are low, but not impossible. If it does become more infectious, it will also become less lethal. This is a basic natural evolutionary trade-off to ensure the virus's propagation. Of 7 suspected and only 2 confirmed cases, 3 people have already died. Based on the case timeline, they likely contracted the disease in Argentina before boarding. They boarded on April 1st and then showed symptoms on April 6th. The virus takes at least 1 week to show symptoms, and that leaves 4 people who could possibly transmit the virus, but all of them are in the hospital. The flight attendant, who had minimal, if any, contact with any of these infected passengers, who was removed and isolated before the plane even took off, her symptoms also onset far too early to even be related to this case. So she has already tested negative for hantavirus. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, but there is genuinely no threat to public health from this outbreak on a cruise ship. Do not fall for people fear-mongering a pandemic for engagement money. I hope that does a lot to calm any fears that people might be having out there. I know that, ever since the original plandemic, people have been waiting for the next plandemic because they kind of put that idea into your heads that we're living in an age of pandemics now, and everybody just needs to get used to the idea that these incurable and untractable diseases are going to pop up all over the place, and because of climate change, you're probably going to come down with something that's going to kill you. None of that is true. All of it is total fear-mongering. We have excellent medical care most places around the world, and unless they come up with something else in a lab, then nobody has anything to worry about. And even if they do come up with something in a lab, I have the full faith in the current administration that they're not going to let anything like that happen. So do not allow yourself to be worried about hantavirus. There are many, many other things that I think warrant our attention. All right, now, one of those things that I think warrants our attention is the wholesale slaughter of the Liberal Party in the UK. All right. Now, I've talked about Rupert Lowe on this channel before. He is the founder of Restore Britain. When Rupert announced the creation of the Restore Britain Party, he said, we are not going to do what Reform did. Initially, Reform went out and they tried to get people elected all over the country. It was a failure because the party was not widely recognized. They had no successes under their belt. So Rupert said, we are going to shoot for one single jurisdiction, one village, one council, and we're going to try to take over that entire council. And guess what? That is exactly what they did. Yesterday, in the UK, there was an election, and the Restore Britain Party won 10 out of 10 seats that they ran for, and they had overwhelming majorities in every single one of those wins. So this means that they now control a particular area in the United Kingdom. They're going to set the agenda. They're going to be the ones deciding the policy for this area. And as such, they're going to be able to show that these policies are much, much better for the entire nation. And that is going to be tremendously obvious to everyone. Even better than that, even with the failures that the Reform Party has had up until this point, in the last 24 hours, they have completely reversed that trajectory. They have flipped the script on Labor. Labor has only secured 17% of the seats that were contested in yesterday's election. That means that 83% of the elections where people were running against existing Labor Party candidates in elected office, they have all lost. They have only retained 17% of the number of seats that they held in Parliament. So now Reform has taken essentially 63% of all of those Labor seats. The others are split between like the Green Party and things like that. We can actually see the entire breakdown right here. This is actually from earlier today. But Reform now holds, well, earlier this morning, Reform had won 1,224 seats. Labor had lost 1,071 seats. LDM, I'm not exactly certain what LDM is, but they were up 90 seats. The Conservative Party was down 474 seats. The Green Party was up 268 seats. And OTH, again, I don't know who they are, down by 32 seats. So that means that Labor has now lost more seats than the Reform Party has gained all around the country. And these are the final numbers as of, I don't know, maybe an hour or so ago. Basically, almost 90% of all of the elections have been declared. It is a bloodbath. This is a rebuke of the traditional Labor and, the Labor of the Liberals, and then the Conservative parties in the UK. The power sharing agreement between them is very similar to the power sharing agreement that we have here in the United States between the Republicans and the Democrats. They just trade back and forth every couple of years. Nothing happens. Nothing gets done. Everything stays shitty. And it looks like the people of the UK are just about done with it. They are all shittied out. So the Reform Party has gained over 1,400 seats. Labor has lost over 1,300 seats. The Conservatives have lost nearly 500 seats. And in the background, I would say that the most successful is going to be Restore Britain because they won every seat that they set out to take on. Sea to Shining Sea says, this pandemic is so feeble and stupid, it will be exposed. Well, and that's the thing. Even if it is a pandemic, I don't know that it actually is, but thank you very much for the for the support. It could just be that it's people reacting because they want to get that next wave. I think that there are a lot of people out there who are simply looking to capitalize on something and make a lot of money. I'm not monetized on Twitter, so I'm not out there fear-mongering. Obviously I am monetized through your support here on Rumble, but I'm not going to blow any smoke up your ass, you guys. I'm just a dude with a microphone, and I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm not trying to make people believe anything that I don't believe, and so I'm just going to tell you exactly what I think, and I smell bullshit. So there we go. Now, there is additional bullshit from the United Kingdom that I wanted to make sure we covered because I have all of the faith in the world that this is not the kind of thing that we're going to see under reform or restore. Certainly, I would like to see restore win a whole ton more seats in future elections, and I think that that's probably what's going to happen. Restore Britain is really what Reform UK kind of started out as, and they've gotten a little bit more moderate as time has gone on in their desire to finally start winning seats. But now, take a look at this story. The first gay surrogate parent couple in the United Kingdom has just been charged with rape and human trafficking for sexual exploitation. These are two men, Barry Druitt Barlow, 57. He's now married to his daughter's ex-boyfriend, who became the first gay parent to surrogate babies in 1999 in the United Kingdom with his now ex-husband, who had throat cancer. Druitt Barlow purchased multiple children, twins named Aspen and Saffron, Orlandum, and another set of twins, Jasper and Dallas. He also has children, Valentina and Romeo, with his daughter's ex-boyfriend. So sick to imagine that this older gay dude seduced his daughter's boyfriend to turn him gay and have him get married to him. Barry and Scott Druitt Barlow, 32, co-own the Malden and Tiptree Football Club. This is like the UK's first all-gay football club. Barry has been charged with 3 counts of sexual assault on a male, 4 counts of rape on a man of 16 or over, and 2 counts of arranging or facilitating travel of another person with a view to exploitation. All of these, you can kind of discern what they mean, some of them more obvious than others. Obviously, the language is different in the United Kingdom than it is here in America. But Scott is charged with 1 count of sexual assault on a male, 1 count of rape on a man over 16, 2 counts of arranging or facilitating travel of another person with a view to exploitation. During an interview, Barry said he purchased a woman's eggs after seeing her on a catwalk in Miami, and he said he wanted beautiful kids because he didn't want to deal with ugly ones. That sounds like something a catty queen might say. Here, let's go ahead and take a look at them introducing the babies that really aren't theirs.
These are our kids, Valentina and Romeo, and today we're going over to Bowers and Pitsea to meet up with the Malden and Tiptree ladies team who are playing in the BBC Essex Women's Cup. Make some noise. What do you say, boys and girls? Make some noise?
Yeah.
So give us a cheer.
Come on, you jammers. Come on, you jammers.
Come on, you jammers.
Hi, I'm Barry Druitt Barlow, and this is my partner Scott, and we want you to meet our new son, Romeo.
And how did you find your egg donor?
The egg donor we found on a catwalk
A model.
in Miami.
What drew you to her? Initially her looks.
It was her looks completely.
And you're honest about that?
Oh, I'm absolutely honest about it. Why the hell not? When I saw her on the catwalk, I looked at Scott and I went, oh, fuck, she is stunning. I tell you, her legs were 6 feet in the air. We've got hundreds of those models on our books right now.
That reasoning from your point of view will infuriate some people.
Absolutely.
They'll say,
Just buying a baby,
Yeah.
that's what people say.
A beautiful baby.
Well, most people could do a lot worse than spend 1 month of their life on drugs to give some embryos for 50 grand.
Do you worry it's a slippery slope if we just start saying, oh, we just want beautiful kids?
No.
Really? That's
That's
so
right.
interesting.
Well, what do you want me to say?
No, to be honest.
we need ugly ones as well. Oh, sorry, I just can't lie.
No, but listen, I would much prefer
Nobody
to
wants an ugly kid. Sometimes we get them, but we don't always want them, and we deal with it and carry it on.
I just don't think that would be a priority for me. If I were to go down that route, but the idea that it's got to be stunning, I think that's what gives people,
But no one's
that's what
saying that
rubs
they
them
have to
up
be
the wrong way.
Well, I really couldn't give a flying fuck about rubbing anybody up the wrong way. That's not what I'm about. I couldn't care less. But in an honest world, you want your kids to have a chance. Babe, you know the other day when I said to you, the baby's nappy burst and there was shite all over the bed?
Yeah.
It wasn't actually the baby's nappy, it was me.
Oh, Christ. Oh, God. Okay. Anyways, I don't know what the punishment is for any of these things. What I can tell you is that in the United Kingdom, a life sentence is not really a life sentence. It's a certain amount of
predetermined time. I am interested to see who the victims are in this case. I mean, you know, I can't tell if they're charging for human trafficking in regards to the children themselves. I mean, they're talking about counts of sexual assault on a male. Is that a child? Or are they talking about an adult male? Because they say male and then a male 16 or over. So that could be someone who is technically a child still, a young, a teenager. Skibbity toilet, Darkseed says. 6'7", says Darkseed. Okay. Man, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, we'll find out. But, you know, the fact that the reason this is getting attention is because these guys were so well known. Like, they were doing interviews all over the place and obviously, you know, making comments like that. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't also talk about a scene of such abject terror as that here in the United States, now that I've covered it in the United Kingdom. This one is from Marietta, Georgia. Police at about 2 a.m. on Wednesday received a call from an 18-year-old victim, and that 18-year-old victim believes they may have uncovered a human trafficking operation. So the teenager told dispatchers that she had been sexually assaulted at the Hotel Westin on Kingston Court the prior evening. Now, during this investigation, detectives say they found evidence suggesting this suspect, the man right there, Jamie Hernandez Campos, who's a 36-year-old man, had also been sexually exploiting a 16-year-old girl for an extended period of time. So police said based on that evidence we collected and the age of the victim, the investigation expanded to include human trafficking, not just individualized cases of sexual assault. So the department has brought in the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's Human Exploitation and Trafficking Unit. They've now been assigned to the investigation. Marietta police initiated the investigation, and they said that Campos had convinced this 18-year-old and the 16-year-old to go to dinner. Afterwards, he lured them to the hotel, and then he unfortunately raped the 18-year-old girl in the bathroom. And then he proceeded to do a whole bunch of other terrible things to them. His charges are rape, aggravated sodomy, and trafficking of persons for sexual servitude. No word yet on Mr. Hernandez Campos's status as an American citizen, but it could go either way. You just look at that face and who knows? But let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, no, wouldn't you know it? He is not only a pedophile, he's also an illegal alien.
Marietta police say a call from a teenager may have uncovered a human trafficking operation. Officers say an 18-year-old called 911 and said that she had been raped at a hotel in Kingston Court. During that investigation, detectives say they found evidence that the suspect, 36-year-old Jaime Hernandez Campos, had also been sexually exploiting a 16-year-old girl. Police arrested him last night. They fear this was not a standalone crime.
And so now you have an investigation that took an absolute complete turn from one incident to now multiple incidents. And the question your viewers will have is the same one our detectives have, and they're working to answer now. And that's that, are there other victims and are there other suspects that are also involved in this? We believe the answer to both to be yes.
Let's give you another look at the suspect. If you have any information that may help, you are asked to call police in Marietta.
So yes, if you are a resident of Marietta, Georgia, and you've seen this guy around and you think you might know something or you might have some information, please, please, please call the police and let them know. Every single one of these bastards needs to be taken off the street. Let's see. Denise Ann says, my local NBC affiliate posted this on Facebook. CDC issues level 3 emergency in response to the Hantavirus outbreak. The neglect to say in the headline that level 3 is the lowest. Shake my head. So yes, basically they have to do something because there's been a report, and that's all that happened. All right. Now, I do have another Spencer Pratt clip that I want to play for you. He was interviewed by, I believe this is like local CBS or something like that, and they attempted to snare him in a trap that would essentially lose him voters, basically accusing him of being a MAGA Republican running in liberal Los Angeles. Take a listen. He answers it perfectly.
it seems that the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah, thankfully, all my supporters in Los Angeles are Democrats. Everyone I know, my family, are all Democrats. I grew up in LA. I went to Crossroads. Everybody that texted me last night, amazing, congratulations, are all Democrats. So what people are confused on, the Democrats all are behind me. It's just the socialists and the communists that don't back me. But no, I'm confident I'm probably going to win with 51% on June 2nd because I don't do a political message. I don't do national politics. I don't do tribal politics. I don't talk about other states. I'm localized. I just want to fix our streets, get the lights on. I want people to feel safe. I want to get our tax money to not be robbed by these literal criminal NGOs stealing from our tax to increase the homelessness. So my message isn't political, it's common sense. So I have Democrats love me, Republicans love me, independents love me, libertarians love me, constitutionalists love me. It's just socialists and communists.
Oh, it's the perfect answer. It's just the socialists and the communists, the people who already hate you, the people who want to destroy your lives. Those are the people who hate Spencer Pratt. All right. Now, yesterday, it was determined that some member of the deep state leaked a CIA Iran war dossier. They gave it to the CIA's favorite newspaper in D.C., the Washington Post. Now, the CIA document refutes President Trump's claim that the Iranian regime's missiles are mostly decimated. Have no idea how true this is. This, to me, just appears to be a inside deep state hit job seeking to dismantle any progress that President Trump has made. And President Trump was asked about this while he was in the Oval Office. Now, I believe he was there visiting with some members of the UFC because obviously we have that octagon cage match coming up this summer. So this reporter asked President Trump about his decision to pause Project Freedom amid this blockade in the Straits of Hormuz, and President Trump kind of went off on him. Let me just get
I want to give this to you for free. This is the quick draw system. It lets you carry a...
Okay.
You're facing an opponent right now in Iran that has refused to submit. You seem optimistic now as we may be closer to a deal. What's different about this moment now than in other moments where a deal has seemed close?
Well, why do you say they refused to submit? You don't know that. You don't know what's going on behind
U.S. ships a few days ago.
Yeah, I know, a few days ago. It's a long time ago. You know, in the world of war, a few days ago. No, they want to make a deal badly. And we'll see if we get there. If we get there, they can't have nuclear weapons. You know, it's very simple. But what's not to submit? So they had a Navy with 159 ships, and now every ship is blown to pieces and lying at the bottom of the water. They had an Air Force, lots of planes, and they don't have any planes. They don't have any anti-aircraft. They don't have any radar left. Their missiles are mostly decimated. They have some. They have probably 18, 19%, but not a lot by comparison to what they had. And their leaders are all dead. So I think we won. Now it's only a question of, look, if we left right now Iran, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. You would call that, we're in good shape, right? Fantastic shape. We're in good shape.
Fantastic shape, Mr. President. The only thing they want to do is to discredit President Trump. So what can they do? Well, the CIA, of course, still has a lot of deep state holdovers. They don't call it the fifth column for nothing. So someone inside the CIA leaks this Iran war dossier to the Washington Post, and the Washington Post writes it up and says this confidential analysis delivered to administration policymakers this week concludes that Iran can survive the U.S. naval blockade for at least 3 to 4 months before facing severe economic hardship. Now, it's also worth mentioning that they're already at the point where they can't continue to operate their oil industry because they can't export any oil. They can't store any more oil. And so they've quite literally just started dumping oil into the Straits of Hormuz. It's an environmental catastrophe. So this analysis coming from inside the U.S. intelligence community, these secret assessments on Iran have often been more sober than the administration's public statements. And I want you to put this in contrast to what we've talked about yesterday and last week about the CIA's decision to withhold intelligence from President Trump, to deliver certain types of intelligence to President Trump in the hopes that he makes one decision or another, in that he falters in one way or another, or that he doesn't have the full complement necessary to allow him to make the decisions that need to be made in order to keep the United States of America safe, such as in 2020 when they withheld the evidence of China directly meddling in the U.S. election to help Joe Biden because people at the CIA wanted Joe Biden to win. But they're claiming in this report that Iran retains about 75% of their pre-war inventories on mobile launchers, about 70% of its pre-war stockpiles of missiles. And this official who spoke with the Washington Post, who probably doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, said there's evidence the regime has been able to recover and reopen almost all of its underground storage facilities. They've repaired some damaged missiles and even assembled new missiles. Now, if that were the case, there would be an ongoing battle that would be taking place because, I mean, at this point, the United States has with just the flick of a finger, we have pushed Iran into a point of submission. So I put absolutely no credence on this. However, there was a back and forth that took place in the Strait of Hormuz between someone within the Iranian military and the United States. Now, as soon as this exchange of fire took place, there were people in Congress, people in the media who said, oh, well, that's it. I guess the ceasefire is over. President Trump is going to have to get a resolution now. But, of course, the administration says, no, that's not it. We're just defending ourselves. We're not starting a war. We're simply making sure that our people don't end up dying. Marco Rubio gives a perfect response.
Well, I guess, but the point is, if there's not much seizing in the firing, because we've
well, you should ask that of the Iranians. Don't ask me. We didn't fire. They fired on us. My point is, if you fire at a U.S. Navy ship, what are we supposed to do? Say, oh, there's a ceasefire. We're not going to shoot down your drone. That's a stupid question. That's a stupid position to take. Of course we fired back at them. They were shooting at us. That's what I would expect to do. Only stupid countries don't shoot back when you're shot at. And we're not a stupid country.
Do you expect that there, or have you conveyed any red lines to Iran where, you know, if the ceasefire or whatever you call it, if they cross...
Well, the red line is clear. If they threaten Americans, they're going to get blown up. I mean, that's how much clearer can you be than that? If you fire on, if you are a missile launching guy, whatever they call that job, and you're sitting there and you fire a missile at the United States and we saw you fire it, we're going to hit you. Of course we are. Who doesn't do that? Unless you want to get your ship sunk. I mean, we're not going to let our ships get sunk by the Iranians with their little, you know, their drones that they're firing. You know, they don't have a navy anymore, but they bring out these little Boston whaler fishing boats and they try to swarm you. We're going to blow those boats up if they're coming towards our boats. I don't know if that's a red line, but I hope they know it is by now. So if I were one of these Iranians on a fast boat and they tell you, hey, your mission is to go after a U.S. destroyer, you're probably not going to survive. I think that's a red line.
If a Boston whaler is coming at a U.S. Navy destroyer, yeah, it's probably not going to end up real good for you guys. So, I mean, that's obvious anyways. All right. Now, President Trump also gave it to a reporter. Now, you know, there's a couple of things going on in this story that I wanted to get at. Okay, so the reporter asks him, why is he cleaning up the Lincoln Memorial when we're in the middle of this Iran conflict? As if the president doesn't know how to walk and chew gum at the same time, or he doesn't have the ability to delegate individual tasks to very specific entities within the federal government under the purview of the executive branch that can do one thing at the same time somebody else is doing something else. It's like, okay, I'll give you another example. When there's a story that certain people believe should be the only thing that gets talked about, and then something else happens in the news and people just immediately say it's a distraction. Not every story is a distraction. There may be people who don't want you to pay attention to certain things. I'll tell you what a real distraction is. All right. So let's say that tomorrow the Department of Justice puts out an arrest warrant for Barack Hussein Obama and all members of his cabinet. And Tulsi Gabbard goes on national television and gives another press conference and says, yes, we have everything that we need to prove that not only did they steal the election in 2020, but Barack Hussein Obama began, well, she already basically did this, but I mean, she can say it in a stronger voice. Okay. And they say, we are now sending out all of the U.S. Marshals to arrest these people. And then immediately after that, somebody sets off a dirty bomb in Times Square in New York. Okay, that dirty bomb in Times Square would immediately take over the news cycle and everybody would basically forget about Barack Hussein Obama and his cabinet being arrested. And there would be people saying, well, we don't have time to deal with that now. We've got to take care of all the sick and the dying, and we need to figure out who these terrorists are because, of course, they're Muslims. That would be the distraction, okay? The American people have the ability to discern between multiple happenings at the same time because there are definitely multiple things happening. When something gets dropped on a Friday and then a bigger news story comes out immediately thereafter, and then all of the people who should be covering the news stop covering the much bigger story and start covering something about the Oscars, okay? And then they never go back to it. That is definitely a distraction. But the world is too big and the deep state is too broad. There are too many different types of crimes that are taking place at any one point in any day. And there is a lot to discuss. So simply because you have multiple important things happening, it doesn't mean it's a distraction. It's like this reporter suggesting that President Trump having the Lincoln Memorial cleaned up is somehow taking his attention away from whatever is happening in Iran. Like, the federal government is big, okay? And the executive branch under the president is multifaceted. So, yeah, they have the ability to not only keep Washington, D.C. clean, but also maintain military dominance around the globe and keep Americans safe. So it's a ridiculous assertion, and I wanted to make the distinction between the two. So if you guys have ever been to Washington, D.C., then you've probably seen the reflecting pool. You know that it was a freaking cesspool, all right? I couldn't believe how long it had been since they'd cleaned it out. I mean, I just kind of assumed, I took it for granted that they had a regular cleanup crew that would come through and maybe scoop out the slime, scoop out the trash, but no, they didn't. It was just a rancid pool of fetid water, a couple of inches deep, and they allowed it to just become disgusting. And so President Trump comes back to D.C. and he's like, this is shit. This is bullshit. We can't have this. This is the capital city of the United States of America. So last month, he said that, you know, we're going to renovate this filthy reflecting pool, and then we're going to paint the bottom. It's going to be American flag blue. It's going to be gorgeous. People come to D.C., and they're going to see this, you know, this extension of the American experiment. It's a commentary on what it means to be an American, okay? Not just that we could build something, but we have to maintain it. It's like when I've talked about Africa. Okay, you can have all the infrastructure in the world. You can have the most beautiful buildings. You can be handed the most beautiful technology. But if you don't have the ability to maintain those things, then gradually over time, they're going to crumble. And then once they crumble, if you don't have the ability to even build those things in the first place, well, then you're never going to get those back. If you've ever taken a look at some African nations that have decolonized today, you take a look at the crumbling railroads or the trains that have just been allowed to sit there rotting on rusty rail lines because they never bothered to maintain them. They never bothered to keep them up. The buildings are falling apart. I mean, just look at South Africa. That place is a shithole. Okay, I mean, like, you're as good as dead walking down the street. You don't have power in many parts. You got rolling blackouts 24 hours a day because you have people that are just stealing copper out of the ground. You got people that are taking the stoplights off of the signs. You got graffiti everywhere. You go to Los Angeles or you go to San Francisco and you got human shit covering the streets. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. If you don't maintain your surroundings, then it's going to turn into shit. It's like a 16-year-old boy who never does his laundry or takes care of his dishes. Eventually, it's going to pile up. You're going to have mold. You're going to have dirt. It's going to stink. You're probably going to have animals coming in there and dying. You're going to have bugs, and you're not going to have anything to wear. And you're never going to get a girl because she's never going to want to come over into that filthy, stinking shithole that you call a bedroom. Okay, you got to take care of your room. So President Trump says you're going to end up with a beautiful, beautiful reflecting pool the way it's supposed to be, much better than it ever was. And the renovations are going to cost only a paltry $1.5 million. That's compared to the $34 million that Obama spent on the reflecting pool. Much of that went into the grift of the the plan that they have in every major metropolitan area where Democrats and unions control. They just steal as much money as they can. So President Trump drove his motorcade through the reflecting pool. And you can see here, it's empty now and they've cleaned it out. It's gorgeous. Take a look. Yeah, it's no longer filthy. It's no longer stagnant. It's no longer fetid. Yes, in India, they poop all over. They throw their trash all over the ground. It's disgusting. I would never go to any country that doesn't have basic sanitation. I have no desire to go anywhere around the world where they don't, at a minimum, keep things clean. And it pisses me off to no end when I see people here in the United States just tossing trash on the ground or just carelessly littering or just being filthy. It's disgusting. Anyways, so the president stopped with his motorcade and he started taking questions. And this broad from ABC News said, why are you focusing on these projects when gas prices are soaring? As if he could just snap his fingers and suddenly make gas prices cheaper. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works. And that's a simplistic and frankly retarded worldview to have. Got to get past this commercial real quick.
You know why? Because I want to keep our country beautiful and safe. Beautiful also. This place was a disgusting place. It was Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, and we had a terrible disgust. I don't know, you probably don't see dirt, but I do. And you walk down this pond, if you would have walked down, they'll tell you better than anybody. They had to take 11 or 12 truckloads of garbage out of that lake, out of that water, and it sat there for years like that. And that's not what our country is about. Our country is about beauty, cleanliness, safety, great people, not a filthy capital. It's such a stupid question you asked. We're fixing up the reflecting pond to the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, and you say, why are you fixing it up? Because you can understand dirt maybe better than I can, but I don't allow it. This is one of the worst reporters. She's with ABC Fake News, and she's a horror show. She's saying, why would you bother fixing this up? Why would I bother taking 11 or 12 truckloads of filth out of the water in front of the Lincoln Monument? That's what made our country great. Beauty made our country, people made our country great. A question like that is a disgrace to our country.
Absolute disgrace. So yes, and someone in the chat said, to be fair, he did bring gas prices down in his first term. I'm definitely not suggesting that President Trump or the administration isn't doing anything at the moment or isn't planning to make gas as affordable in the future as they possibly can. But my point is that it's a process. There are many different pieces on this chessboard along the way to get from point A to point B. Right now, gas was $4.45 or $4.49 for me this morning, and I just kept driving. I was like, I'm not going to get it right now. I'm going to wait. We just got a membership to BJ's where gas is cheaper. I think it's just as cheap, if not cheaper, than it is at Buc-ee's. But the closest Buc-ee's is like 25 minutes away. I don't have all that time to just, drive around town. So eventually, gas prices can be brought down, and I sincerely hope that they bring them way down. It needs to be cut in half, needs to be cut in 3/4. One of the big reasons, and we've talked about this before, are the various manufacturing steps and transportation steps along the way, which are cutting into the bottom line that you and I are paying at the tank. And they are doing a really good job to keep it below that threshold where it's considered price gouging. And until that time is met, in order for President Trump to come in and say, I am now going to threaten some overt action against you because it's obvious you're taking advantage of the American people. Until that time, it's basically like we just kind of have to eat our bowl of shit as we're waiting for all this stuff to happen. So I have faith. I have faith that it's being addressed. And I also believe that the situation in Iran, once that's alleviated, it should have a major change. And of course, the UAE just left OPEC. I saw somebody in the chat said that the UAE is now requesting an unlimited supply of Federal Reserve notes. That's good news. And it probably means that there's going to be some deal going on there with regards to oil and gas. So there are things that are happening, but it's the flick of a switch. It's the snap of a finger that I was pointing to. There are so many things happening in our country at any given point that must be addressed. And for a retarded worldview like that woman from ABC News to step up and say, this should be the only thing that you, the president of the United States, should even be working on or talking about. Again, it's retarded, totally freaking retarded. You got the whole cabinet, you've got the whole apparatus of the federal government, a lot of different things going on. All right, now, I have been trying to get to this story for a couple of days, and I'm kind of glad that I waited because it means that I get to bring it like full circle. All right, so over the weekend, it was announced that this Texas Islamic group was going to be holding a Muslims-only water park day at a taxpayer-funded water park. Apparently, they had rented out the water park, and they had put out this announcement that they were only going to be allowing Muslims wearing full Muslim gear to come. So I suppose if you're a man, you can wear shorts. Maybe you got to wear a t-shirt. I'm not exactly certain, but obviously a woman, she's going to have to cover up. No bikinis. It's going to be real difficult going down those slides, I would imagine, in like a full bathrobe. But either way, it turns out that the woman who runs the organization, Dr. Amina Knight, also owns something called the Excellence Early Leering Center. It is not the same Leering Center as we had in Little Mogadishu in Minneapolis. It's a different Muslim-owned Leering Center. And of course, it's a typo. It's supposed to say Learning Center. There's another spot on her website where she spells it Leaning Center. Equally retarded, either way that you go. But this Excellence Early Leering Center obviously drew some comparisons between the Quality Leering Center and her Excellence Leering Center. But they are completely not connected in any way. The Excellence Early Leering Center, with this misspelled website header, meant that every single page that you went to on the website, it said Excellence Leering Center. I can't tell you how many freaking websites I have built for clients and for myself. And you've always got to go through and do a basic spell check. Got to do a basic spell check, because if there's something that you don't catch, your client is going to catch it. I had one horror show one time where I had this website that I was building for a guy. He was a great guy, gave me a ton of business, and I accidentally swapped two links. One link for another link, and he had like pushed me to get the website out, and I didn't get a chance to have him view the back end of it before I went like full production and published it to the web. And I screwed that up, and because I screwed that up, I didn't get any more work from this guy. He was pissed, And this website but I mean, we caught that in the first like 15 minutes. All right. It wasn't like that big of a deal, but it was a big enough deal because this guy was an American business owner. This woman is a Muslim NGO owner who appears to have the exact same business model as the Quality Leering Center in Minnesota. But even more than that, renting out this taxpayer-funded water park to have a religious discrimination day, that was illegal as well. So this Excellence Early Leering Center, with the misspelling on every single page of the website, located in Fort Worth suburb of Hearst. They have a variety of programs for young people, infants to pre-K, probably only for Muslims as well. And they provide children with the, quote, loving personal care that they need to thrive and feel confident. Just not the spelling portion of it. So they also boast multiculturalism, small classroom sizes, healthy eating, and a warm, loving environment that feels like home. And staff with degrees in education, really, accounting, biology, pharmacology, science, nursing, and mathematics from their home countries. Okay, so a degree in any of these things from a diploma mill in some African nation would probably explain it. So Dr. Amina Knight, the woman who owns this place, she's got a master's degree from the University of Southern California and then a doctorate from Vanderbilt University. I would assume that those are both essentially DEI diplomas as well. So earlier this week, she and this organization got all of this criticism for the Muslims-only water park day at the Epic Waters facility in Grand Prairie. The fact that it was Muslim-only means that it was based upon the concept of religious discrimination. Now, this is a big water park, 80,000 square feet indoor. They opened back in 2017. The cost of this facility was $88 million. And the reason that they were able to get it built is because they put a sales tax hike on all of the residents. It was voted on in 2014. So the citizens basically, in its entirety, paid for this thing to be built. After the backlash started and the state government of Texas also got involved, Knight modified the advertisement to omit the exclusionary language and acknowledged that the original messaging wasn't intended to bar non-Muslims, even though it said so in the initial invitation. The core intention behind this event is to create a space where individuals and families who value modest dress and a modest environment can come together and feel comfortable enjoying a recreational space that often doesn't naturally accommodate those preferences. Well, now that anybody is free to come, I would love to see some, frankly, banging bodies in bikinis show up and see what happens if you got people wearing just standard swim fare. Obviously, it's not going to be halal, but I'd love to see how these people react to it. So anyways, they have now completely scrapped the event. Governor Abbott said that there's no way that we're going to allow this to happen. There were actually over $500,000 in public safety grants that he had threatened to yank from the city of Grand Prairie if they didn't cancel it, because, it's a city-owned park. The people paid for it. How are they going to discriminate? Anyways, and that actually just talks about the actual closure of it. Now, this woman, Dr. Amina, she actually did an interview with Sarah Gonzalez from The Blaze. And after the interview was over, she freaked out and sent a cease and desist letter to The Blaze and to Sarah Gonzalez and demanded that she not release the video. But of course, Sarah immediately released the video. And, we'll take a look at some of these clips here. But basically, Gonzalez was not only a big win for getting this interview, but she also was instrumental in putting a lot of attention on the fact that this event was happening, and then also, of course, getting it canceled. But here, let's take a look.
You also run a daycare, I believe, called Excellence Early Leering Center, or at least it's listed on Google that way, and on your website, I think it's also called a Leaning Center.
Look at her face. Look. She is so unhappy about getting called out for this.
So I'm just wondering, is it appropriate to be in charge of teaching children when you can't spell learning right? Okay, she's not frozen because she's blinking. She's just mad.
No, I'm not. I'm not mad, but I am acknowledging the typo, and I think that's a more appropriate way to say it. Are you trying to let me know that I have a typo on my website?
I know you're almost out of time, so I want to respect your time here. I also want to know how the daycare is operational if your right to transact business was involuntarily ended in Texas.
Oh!
What?
I mean, this is according to the state website. Your registration is inactive. Nothing to say?
I guess I have to figure that out.
Okay. And the Ascendant Faith LLC, you are dead set on that was a typo. That's what you're saying.
I am set on, I actually don't know what you're talking about.
Oh.
And I thought you wanted to talk to me about how I felt about the event being canceled, which I was happy to talk to you about.
And we did talk about that. So
okay, so that's it. I don't have anything else to talk to you about, but I appreciate you reaching out.
Okay. Well, I hope that you've learned your lesson. You can't exclude based on religion here in the good old US of A.
I do not want to exclude
God bless
people based
Amina.
off of
God bless
religion.
Amina. Goodbye.
How you are.
Anywho.
You just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Oh my God. I hope you learned your lesson. Oh, that's so good. She found out live on the air that her business license had been revoked. Oh my God. Oh, she was not happy. Oh, she was not happy about that. Oh, that was so... Oh, hang on. We got to see about interview ends. God bless, Amina. God bless. Hold on. Let me go to Sarah's Twitter account because this is where she said that she got the cease and desist. Oh, where is this? The dull look in her eyes is concerning. The dull brain in her head is even worse. After it ended, she sent us a homemade cease and desist letter. She did not want this to go on air. After watching, you'll understand why. Man, I hope that they look into her 501c3 in the state of Texas to see what other shenanigans she might be up to. All right. Now, before we get into a couple of other topics, thank you, everybody, for being here. I do have a brief message from our friends over on Rumble. You guys, parents, grandparents, no matter who you are, if you've got children, you're going to want to hear this. America is about to hit a major milestone. We're coming up on our 250th birthday. President Trump said we're going to be celebrating all year. I cannot wait to be out west during this big celebratory time. That is 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-governance the world has ever known. And it is obviously the perfect time to teach your children about why this country matters, not just the glitz and the glam, but the story behind all of it. So thankfully, there's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday. It's honestly a great way to introduce those kids to how America began. We got to teach them who the founding fathers were, what it was they were risking, why the ideas they fought for are still relevant today. This guide is going to do just that when it sends those kids back to the moment when those brave men signed the Declaration of Independence. When they did so, they knew full well that they were risking their lives for freedom. They were putting it all on the line. It's going to break it all down for them in a way that they can understand and enjoy. It's not going to water it down or make it feel like schoolwork. And if you care about raising your kids to know where this country actually came from and knowing why it's worth preserving, this is definitely something you're going to want to grab. The best part is it's totally free with the special offer. All you do is pay the $2 for the shipping and handling. Envelope, stamp, that's it. So head on over to freeusabirthday.com. That is freeusabirthday.com. And the Kid's Guide to America's 250th birthday is there for your kids today because America's story matters. Let's make sure the next generation knows it. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, we do have an update on the situation with the monster of Fauci, that man who was just placed under FBI investigation for trying to smuggle bat viruses here into the United States. Now, this information is coming by way of a new NIH whistleblower who is exposing Dr. Munster's monkey bite horror and an illegal African pathogen smuggling ring. This FBI criminal probe looking into Dr. Munster is undoubtedly going to find a lot more than just this one trip he was taking. I hate that picture because it's a dead monkey and they killed it. Now, it's finally raining. Hallelujah. We need rain so bad down here in Florida. It hasn't rained for months. All of my stuff is dead. All right, so the National Institutes of Health is allegedly scrambling
to bury all of these explosive and recently revealed scandals at their high-security Rocky Mountain laboratory in Hamilton, Montana. This is where Dr. Munster worked. Now, a new whistleblower has come forward, sent a letter to the White Coat Waste Project. And in that letter, they claim that NIH officials in Bethesda, Maryland, are in full cover-up mode so that they can protect Dr. Munster, who is one of Dr. Anthony Fauci's top virologists. Remember, we have emails between, him and other people in the early days of the pandemic talking about the cover-up of all of this stuff. Certainly, his research was then passed on to Dr. Peter Daszak at the Wuhan Institute of Virology for the gain-of-function work they were doing there. He would have been directly involved in it. That is my assumption. Now, these allegations obviously are coming at an inopportune time for not only the NIH, but also, of course, for the laboratory itself. The FBI is now conducting a criminal investigation into Vincent Munster because he smuggled those deadly human pathogen samples that included the monkeypox virus and others in the luggage that he was bringing back from Africa. He had no permits that he would have been required to carry with those very highly deadly pathogens. If something would have happened, like say his luggage got lost or it was broken open or someone stole his luggage, then obviously those pathogens could have ended up getting into the general human population, and we could have had something very, very bad happening. And who knows if they're even natural pathogens? What if they were created in Africa using the same type of gain-of-function research that was happening at the Wuhan Institute of Virology? Instead of just making it something that was highly transmissible human to human, what if it actually was super, super deadly? Now, in this whistleblower letter that was sent to White Coat Waste, it states that Munster, who is a German-born researcher, long funded by Fauci's NIAID, attempted to smuggle dozens of vials of viral hemorrhagic fever samples back into the United States from Africa in January. Now, if you are working for a government-funded laboratory and you have what is essentially unlimited access to government grants and the finest labs and the finest research tools that you could possibly have access to, can anybody here tell me a viable or understandable reason why you would need to smuggle viral sicknesses such as this, viral hemorrhagic fever, monkeypox, more bat viruses? What possible scientific reason would you have to bring that stuff in a clandestine manner? I will answer the question for you because I'm sure you guys are already there. There is none. There isn't a single logical reason to do that, unless, of course, you yourself are a bad actor. Okay? If you guys ever seen 12 Monkeys? It's a great movie. They actually made a TV series out of it, which was pretty good. Not nearly as good as the movie. It was written and directed by Terry Gilliam from Monty Python, if you remember that. Money, but I'd say a lot more than just money. Okay, because this would have ended up in the hands of evil people. So this was, in my opinion, an effort to set off the next wave of pandemic scares. See, when you bring in viruses, like traditionally with all the proper paperwork, all of that stuff is cataloged. They know exactly how much is on hand. They know exactly where it came from. There's a chain of custody, if you will. But if you smuggle it into the United States, it can end up in the hands of a clandestine laboratory where it can then be worked on and something more monstrous can be created. And then, of course, if they're not expecting viral hemorrhagic fever to be in the United States, and then suddenly, after it's been worked on in a lab in, who knows, Minnesota, and then they infect some American city, and then nobody is expecting it to happen, it can be a lot more devastating and dangerous. Obviously, the cost of human life can be much, much greater. So the only reason is nefarious purposes. Certainly, he would have gotten paid, but who knows? This guy might be a true believer in the Great Reset. He might be a true believer in the destruction of the United States. So, I think it goes deeper than just money. All right. So this whistleblower said that officials at the NIH are trying their best to keep everything quiet. And certainly because it happened in January and we're not even finding out about it until May, they obviously did a pretty decent job of it. But apparently, they haven't even informed most people who work at the campus, but they did have to ban Munster and his colleagues, his team, from entering the facility. So this whistleblower also states the decisions to downplay this smuggling came directly from the main NIH campus, which is located in Bethesda, Maryland, and that senior officials are now operating in full cover-up mode. I think it's safe to say that if they didn't tell the staff, if they didn't allow the information to get out to the public at large, they probably did everything they could to not allow it to spread through the federal government. Now, I can understand why the FBI or the DOJ didn't say something about it, because if they're doing what they're supposed to do, which is a full criminal investigation to see, what they could actually charge this guy with, they're not going to allow that stuff to get out. Now, that's not all. It gets worse. That exact same letter alleges that a separate lab incident at the same Rocky Mountain lab where Munster worked, first exposed by white coat waste back in January, involved a staffer being bitten by a macaque monkey. That monkey was infected with Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, which is something I've never heard of before, but it's a deadly foreign virus, which does not occur naturally in the United States. This monkey was unfortunately a victim of the NIH's notorious maximum pain experiments, where they basically torture the monkey and they give it nothing for the pain. It's not like a monkey is going to be able to tell you on a scale of 1 to 10, like how bad something is. But they're going to say, well, gosh, I can tell from the pinning of the monkey's pupils and how loud he's screaming and the way he's clawing at the cage and even maybe clawing his own eyes out. He is in a lot of pain. I see no scientific value in this. But this bite penetrated through the protective suit that this worker was wearing at the facility. And instead of being transparent with the other scientists and workers at the Rocky Mountain Laboratory, they also covered up this incident. They hid it from most of the people on campus, and this exposed staffer had to be quietly flown out of the facility so that they could avoid any attention. You can see here in this document, the NIH facility in Hamilton, Montana, the Rocky Mountain Laboratory, and NIAID facility in which they described the November 2025 incident as due to a breach in protective equipment that exposed the employee to Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. That's misleading at best, the whistleblower says. It is only true if you realize that the breach of the protective suit happened due to a monkey bite that penetrated the protective suit. The animal handler, name redacted, was bitten by this infected monkey that was being tortured, infected and sickened with no pain mitigation as an experiment for Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. This occurred in November of 2025. It was hidden from even most of the employees at the facility. The worker was taken away for a couple of weeks. He did not go to the local St. Patrick's Hospital in Missoula, Montana, where there is an agreement with the hospital to quarantine patients, but he was flown out elsewhere. When he was returned, he was flown back into Spokane, and then security secretly returned him to the facility. It's old news now, even though it's now leaking out into the public realm. So white coat waste has, for a long time, been hammering Munster's taxpayer-funded animal pain experiments. They've been putting up billboards near the Montana lab where the report of this sudden removal of the NIH employee had resulted in this suspension. We've shown you these billboards before, but a subsequent independent report confirmed that, yes, the FBI's active criminal probe into the smuggling of these undeclared select agents included that monkeypox virus that were collected from patients in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So neither Munster nor his colleague, which is NIH lab scientist Claude Cui Yinda, have confirmed whether or not these samples were properly inactivated. These guys are both on administrative leave. They've both been scrubbed out of the HHS directory. And Munster is a point man for Anthony Fauci. He's been the top researcher for the bat coronavirus work and primate experiments with Ebola, Nipah, a lot of other high risk pathogens. And of course, Fauci had another facility called Monkey Island where they would do these same types of things. He also, of course, was directly involved with Dr. Peter Daszak and EcoHealth Alliance. So I'm not going to go through all of the connections once again between Munster, Fauci, Daszak, and Morans, all of these same people. But again, this particular scientist being investigated for this particular crime is very, very serious. And the noose around his neck, in a legal sense, is getting tighter, which brings him closer and closer to Dr. Anthony Fauci and tightens the metaphorical noose around Dr. Anthony Fauci as well. So I am obviously very excited about this particular story. Now, I am also excited about this information right here. Very briefly, Kash Patel has apparently ordered polygraphs of people on his staff. There are still leakers within the FBI, within the DOJ at large. And so Kash Patel has ordered that the agents working within the FBI must take polygraphs. More than 24 current, but also former members of his security detail and staff. So they are aggressively going after the people who they believe could potentially be leaking. And I'm sure that this has everything to do with that Atlantic article, which came out very recently. So keep an eye on that. Also, Lee Walden says, I was there in D.C. in the mid-'80s, and it was absolutely beautiful. I spent about a week as a guest on a yacht with my bride for a week on the Potomac River. Incredible dock right at the doorstep. Well, that's pretty cool. I had no idea. Yeah, over there on YouTube, E-High Test, how sick is your soul to torture an innocent animal? These people are evil. You know, I mean, I think a lot of times, and you know, I've talked about this before, but a lot of these people, guys, are psychopaths. If they're not psychopaths, they're sociopaths. And to place yourself in the mind of a psychopath or a sociopath is something that not a lot of people can easily do. I mean, it's pure evil. And oftentimes I think that when we're trying to understand why people would do the things that they do, we try to ascribe like what our potential motives could be. And I don't think that's possible with many of these people. I think that there is pure evil in their hearts. And because of that, I mean, like, it's difficult for us to truly know why some of this stuff happens outside of, you know, traditional things like money and power. Principled Enigma says these people are wickedly sick by choice. They need to be dealt with Jack Bauer style. And yes, sir, I agree with you. All right, now, we also have new information about a brand new probe that's emerging from the Trump administration as they are seeking to crack down on leaks of classified secrets. Now, this is looking at Senate Intel Democrats, and this is as a result of an NSA criminal referral. So the FBI has also opened a leak investigation into possible classified info that's been released by Democrats or their staff on the Senate Intel Committee. This criminal referral from the National Security Agency was handed over concerning the release of one of its overseas intercepts. Now, the NSA made this particular referral last summer concerning reports, including one that showed up in the New York Times earlier that year during Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation process. They quoted information from an intercept of two Hezbollah terrorist figures who both claimed that Gabbard, during a 2017 trip to Syria, had met with the big guy. Who is the big guy? I don't know. Tulsi Gabbard, I believe, had talked about meeting with Bashar al-Assad at one point when she was in Congress. But I mean, you know, we were in the midst of a made-up conflict with Bashar al-Assad. Obama created ISIS to depose Bashar al-Assad. The Times suggested that this reference was taken to mean that Gabbard had met with a top Hezbollah terrorist leader. Now, she obviously adamantly denied that. The NSA concluded that the leak accurately contained information from one of its intercepts, but that Gabbard had not, in fact, met with Hezbollah leaders. So the spy agency identified potential leakers, and they were among the Senate Intelligence Committee Democrat staff, because they're the only ones who had access to this intercept prior to the time that it was reported in the Times. So one of them leaked it, gave it to the Times, and there you go. Wrap-up smear begins. So the referral has languished inside the Justice Department for months, with top leaders unaware of the concerns, until FBI Director Kash Patel was alerted to the existence of that referral a few weeks ago. Thank you, Mr. Director. Since that time, FBI counterintelligence and criminal agents have wrapped up their probe and expanded to other potential leaks and media contacts that are tied to the committee's Democrats. So the new probe is the latest to emerge from a new, stronger, meaner, and more careful Trump administration crackdown on the leak of classified secrets by the FBI. If we take a look at the last 15 months, that crackdown has led to major indictments by the Justice Department on figures ranging from former National Security Advisor John Bolton, don't forget, he's still going on trial, former Army employee last month accused of leaking to a journalist. The Senate Intelligence Committee has been the focus of a number of past leak probes, including a case in 2018 that eventually led to their former security chief, James Wolfe, pleading guilty. He lied to the FBI about his leaks of non-public information to a reporter. I believe he was also sleeping with that reporter, and I'm pretty sure James Wolfe is actually dead now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, hang on. Let me confirm that. James Wolfe dead. Yeah. No, it's a different James Wolfe. Is James Wolfe dead? Ugh. No, different James Wolfe. Okay. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Former Director of Security for the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Maybe he's not dead. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I guess he's not dead. I am thinking of somebody totally different. All right, either way, it doesn't really matter. He did serve 2 months in prison. All right, now, let me say thank you very much to Space Coast Patriot. Hi, Zach. Been a long time no see. I've been watching every evening, just haven't been in the chat. I see you every now and then, so thank you very much for hanging out. Appreciate you. Sean Joe, thank you for the can. Trump 1, thank you for the cookie. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 cookies. Curious Cat, thank you for the cookie. Appreciate that. Lizzie B, thank you for the cookie. Filter Dog says, I fill up at a half a tank and it hurts less. Yeah, but then you just got to fill up twice as often. I feel like that's even worse. Oh my God. Cordy G says they just arrested a guy in my state for spiking chocolate milk with meth. 5 people got sick. Holy jeez, man. That is awful. Let me say thank you to Darla. She says, good evening, Zach and Lisa. Zach, your laughter is contagious. Good. I'm glad I can bring a smile to your face. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 cookies. Empress, thank you for the cookie. Filter Dog says, who was Fauci's minion that smuggled the virus into the U.S.? That was Vincent Munster. That was who we just spoke about. And then Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. I appreciate you, buddy. Okay. All right. Now, the big news is we've also learned that the FBI has expanded their 2020 election theft, election fraud investigation to Wisconsin. Now, my good friend Brian Lupo over at the Gateway Pundit has put together a series of events in this article, which details all of the things we've talked about over the last several years to explain why it is that the FBI would be investigating election fraud in Tony Evers' state. Now, you may remember the text of this email from Ryan Chu of the Elections Group. He wrote, "Damn, Claire, you have a flair for drama." Now, that email was sent at 4:17 a.m. on November 4th. Now, Claire would be the executive director of the Election Commission in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He also said, delivering just the margin needed at 3 a.m. I bet you had those votes counted at midnight and you just wanted to keep the world waiting. Well, Claire Vaugh responds, LOL, I just wanted to wait and say I had been awake for a full 24 hours. Now, the Elections Group is one of those non-governmental organizations that just seems to have had its hands everywhere during the 2020 election. Ryan Macias, his involvement in Fulton County before and after the election, the founder of the group, Jennifer Morell, mixing it up at a backyard barbecue with Colorado elections officials and a number of other election organizations. Of course, Chu's involvement in Wisconsin. Both Morell and Macias also showed up during the Arizona audit back in 2021. But this new report that the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel has just released, claiming an FBI agent or agents has conducted an interview with a unnamed but high-ranking state election official very recently. The Wisconsin Election Commission Deputy Administrator Robert Kehoe has been named now as the alleged official with whom that agent sat down. Now, coming from the Milwaukee Sentinel, how nearly 180,000 Milwaukee residents voted in the 2020 election could be at risk of becoming public if the FBI compels elections officials to hand over voting data here in its pursuit to relitigate President Trump's election loss in the key background states. Now, we know that President Trump didn't lose in these key background states. In each one of these states, there was mysterious anomalies that came up. There were 3 a.m. ballot dumps. The ballots at issue here are part of a swath of votes in liberal-leaning Dane and Milwaukee counties that President Trump sought to throw out during a recount he paid for in in Wisconsin's 2020 presidential election when the pandemic surged absentee and mail-in voting. If you've been around with me for all these years, then you remember this well. Wisconsin has a class of voters that are called indefinitely confined. Now, these are the voters who are allegedly physically unable to leave their homes due to either age, physical illness, infirmity, or disability. Mysteriously, during the pandemic, indefinitely confined voters surged. These are voters who automatically receive an absentee ballot without having to provide any copy of a valid photo ID. The number of that surge for the 2020 election was well above historical norms. In 2016, there were about 60,000 indefinitely confined voters. By 2020, there were 240,000. That is, again, 240,000 names without a valid photo ID who automatically and without any critical thinking received an absentee ballot in the mail. Clerks in Madison and Milwaukee told their voters via social media that the COVID-19 emergency pandemic was a legitimate justification for making this declaration that indefinitely confined fell under that category. I have informed Dane County municipal clerks that during this emergency and based on the governor's stay-at-home order, I am declaring all Dane County voters may indicate as needed that they are indefinitely confined due to illness. So a court later ruled this was actually not the case. It was an illegal action, and Governor Evers' stay-at-home order did not legally make all voters eligible for indefinitely confined status. So in that 2020 election, the, at that time, director of the Wisconsin Election Commission, Megan Wolf, she declared unilaterally that ballot drop boxes would be used without a vote of the board of the WEC commissioners, the Wisconsin Election Commission commissioners. Now, nearly half of all the mail-in ballots in Milwaukee were cast via a drop box, and it was promised that these drop boxes would be under 24-hour surveillance. However, in practice, not a single municipality in the county produced any video surveillance in response to open records requests, which means that either they violated open records requests or the video never existed, and so therefore they could not hand it over when it was requested. ZBM says, lurking while getting ready for my youngest third birthday party this weekend and watching our gosling slowly hatch in our incubator, hoping we get 5. Thank you, Zach, for all the news. You're the best. Cheers. ZBM, thank you for that. Tell your 3-year-old happy birthday and definitely good luck on the goslings. So, in Green Bay, internal emails revealed that Michael Spitzer Rubenstein of the National Vote at Home Institute was given 4 of the 5 keys to the KI Center ballroom, where ballots were stored and counted before the 2020 election by Green Bay Mayor Eric Genrich. He was also given access to a hidden internet network at the hotel's convention center. And Michael Spitzer Rubenstein also sought to access WisVote, which would then give him access to absentee ballot information, including which ballots had been returned already in real time. It would also give him the information necessary to, say, inject a certain amount of ballots if it became necessary to overcome a lead that a candidate might be having over another one. That access was reportedly an effort to develop an app to track ballots being returned as they were brought in. And according to InfluenceWatch.org, in 2022, the Center for Renewing America filed a complaint with the IRS alleging that the Center for Tech and Civic Life violated their 501c3 rules by intervening in elections when they received $350 million from the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. That was the initiative that paid for all of those ballot drop boxes. Now, the complaint also included the David Becker-founded Center for Election Innovation and Research. They received $69 million, and it also included the National Vote at Home Institute, which we spoke about earlier in this article. The Green Bay clerk would ultimately resign over the handling of the 2020 election, citing outside interference and a hostile work environment. Now, that is putting it mildly, but there are ample reasons over the years that we've reported on to indicate why an FBI investigation needs to be done in Wisconsin, why the seizure of ballots and election materials needs to be done, just like down in Fulton County. And we've already had a similar action take place in Maricopa County, Arizona. I would suggest Wisconsin is going to be one of the next on the list. Michigan already in the process of happening. Pennsylvania likely to happen as well. But all of these places are going to be exposed in the end. Now, let's stop in with Peter Bernegger, who knows a little bit about this subject. He says the FBI has questioned the deputy administrator of the Wisconsin Election Commission about the 2020 election. That was Robert Kehoe. He was interviewed by the FBI about the 2020 election. I took the sworn deposition of Milwaukee County Director of Elections, Michelle Hawley. Michelle Hawley is the subject of a chain of custody documents that came up in that conversation, and there were troubling answers. So I submitted a public records request for the documents showing delivery of the November 3rd, 2020 election absentee envelopes to the county clerk's office after President Trump's recount effort. Now, by law, these envelopes were to be delivered to the county clerk's office one day after the recount was finished, which was November 28th, 2020. Surprise, the only document the county clerk produced is one page that absentee ballots were brought back to them by the city of Milwaukee on July 27th, 2021. That is well after the law prescribes that those ballots need to be returned. The document says 1 box total, 7 bags of reconstructed ballots. You can see for yourself in the image below. I asked for the other chain of custody documents showing the delivery of the absentee envelopes from the city to the county, again, required by law. They didn't have any more. What was brought to the county clerk's office was 240 days late. Do tell Claire Woodall-Vogue, who was the city election clerk at the time. What has happened to those absentee envelopes during all of that time? And where are the chain of custody documents? Now, again, there have been a number of investigations and movements that have taken place thanks to the DOJ and the FBI as a result of the work of Peter Bernegger. So the fact that he's talking about this now, the fact that the FBI has already instigated an investigation, I would once again suggest that the FBI already has the information that Peter has gone after. So it's definitely happening in Wisconsin, and I can't wait to see where this goes. And we may have an indication of exactly where that's going, because Susie Wiles, the most powerful woman in Washington, D.C., President Trump's close personal confidant, his chief of staff, if you will, has just said this. Take a listen.
Leaving the White House, he called me and invited me to dinner, which I was not in the inner circle. I was just overwhelmed. I couldn't imagine why. I drove down to Mar-a-Lago, which I think he thought I live, 10 minutes from there, but it's really 4 hours. And we had a lovely dinner, and at the end of it, he wanted to know why he won Florida, but maybe struggled in some other states that I think we're going to find out he actually did win. But
we're going to find out he actually did win them. We already know that. All right. Now, the only reason Susie Wiles would be putting that out there right now in the midst of all of these investigations suddenly kicking off into the 2020 election, well, publicly kicking off into the 2020 election, because I don't think any of these things are new. They're just being revealed to the people, is because this is finally happening. The truth about the fraud of the 2020 election is being revealed to the American people. And in my opinion, it needs to come out fully before the midterms, because people need to have that on their mind. And I've said this before, President Trump, being the master manipulator that he is of the news cycle, the reveal of this would need to be done in such a way so that it has an impact on the minds of voters. And of course, that coming out in conjunction with security changes to the election system, those two things happening at the same time are vital to ensure that our votes cast in the midterm election are not fake and gay, are not going to be stolen, are not going to be turned into something that we don't want it to be turned into. This is also happening in conjunction with the various redistricting efforts happening all over the country. Yesterday, we got word Tennessee moved forward. Today, we got word Alabama has moved forward. Many, many different places around the country are doing the exact same thing. I expect news every single day to be popping up. Now, another Democrat-run city in chaos, the same place where Irina Zarutska was brutally murdered by a mentally ill career criminal, is further falling into chaos. The mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, Vi Lyles, has just abruptly resigned. This is only a couple of months after she was reelected. I would hazard a guess and say that she's stepping down because she wanted to make sure she would be reelected. And then whomever it is that gets in after her, it's going to be the process. Instead of being elected by the people, this person is going to be inserted. She's 73 years old. She is a far-left Democrat. She has presided over Charlotte since 2017, and she said that she is resigning effective June 30th. Charlotte is the 14th largest city, and they just gave Lyles another 4 years in November, and now she is running for the exit, and she says she's going to spend more time with her grandchildren. Why did you run for office again then? Perhaps it is that there is a plan to put someone who's going to fix Charlotte in there, And Mayor Lyles was told either you step down or there's going to be criminal charges. I don't know, just speculating here. But she did say, I am very proud of my record as mayor, but I also firmly believe that true leadership includes knowing when it's time to let the next generation take over. By leaving early, the voters will have more time to learn about their candidates. Well, I guess maybe they are going to elect somebody. Our city is strong. Our trajectory is positive. And now is the right time for someone else to build on our progress. What progress? It's not progress when you've got people being murdered at the hands of career criminals who are allowed to just go back out onto the streets, even though they are a clear and present danger to society. So as in all things in politics, I'm sure there will be speculation as to why I'm making this decision now. Simply put, I am going to spend more time with my grandchildren. Well, maybe it's from the mounting pressure or the looming criminal scandals, the backlash of the murder of Irina Zarutska. As you may remember, in September, I couldn't believe she got reelected after Irina was murdered, stabbed viciously in broad daylight on camera. And the guy who did it was, again, somebody who never should have been out on the streets. And once the video surfaced online after being suppressed by the media, people took it and were just completely outraged by it. And the excuse that Mayor Lyles made at the time was that we needed more mental health and we had to do something about failures in the court. Well, the failures in the court are because of the judges letting these monsters back out onto the street. I mean, we see it all the time. I cover it as often as I can. And of course, now President Trump has flooded ICE and Customs and Border Patrol to round up illegal aliens, and perhaps maybe that has something to do with it. Now, I don't know who's going to be throwing their hat into the ring, but I hope that Charlotte now has a chance to perhaps move beyond the situation they're in currently. Thank you to Sean Joe for the cookie. Thank you to Filter Dog, who says rat spreading hantavirus found. Okay, so this is from Graphics. And then Darla says, I know why we can't have a paper ballot with, I don't know why we can't have a paper ballot with a peel-off carbon copy and a website to verify it was counted correctly. Vote at home, mail in, keeping your receipt. I mean, I'm sure that there are a number of different ways that they could do it, but they have kept it unnecessarily complicated this entire time because it makes it easier for them to steal. Ben Garrison, if you guys don't follow Ben Garrison, he is a great political cartoonist. Finally, the rat that was spreading hantavirus has been found. Never have I seen a more accurate depiction of Anthony Fauci. It really does look very, very accurate. All right. And, you know, people are still saying that Fauci needs to be charged before Monday. Again, any of the things that Anthony Fauci have done, in my opinion, it's part of a conspiracy. It's part of a ongoing conspiracy. And every time somebody furthers that conspiracy, things get pushed forward. So it's not something that we need to worry about. I believe that all of these indictments, investigations, arrests are leading right to Anthony Fauci. He's at the top of this heap. Principled Enigma says, pie in the sky, if a court of law proves 2020 was stolen, everything Biden did during his presidency should be made null and void. Trump should be given another term to compensate. Well, the only thing about that is he's already in his second term now, so I think it would take more than Biden's 4 years in office being invalidated. I've definitely talked about that before, and I mean, that would mean Ketanji Brown Jackson would no longer be a Supreme Court justice. Any law that Joe Biden signed that Congress had passed would be null and void, or at the very least, President Trump would have to re-sign them. He could, at that point, decide to veto or send things back to Congress. Any of the executive orders Joe Biden signed, many of them have already been overturned by President Trump, but also certainly all of the commutations or the pardons or the blanket pardons that he gave, Anthony Fauci being principal among them, would be considered null and void as well. I don't know that it's going to necessarily, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I think that the net effect of proving that 2020 was a stolen election, it will invalidate not only Joe Biden, his administration, but also many people in government and the party, certainly the media as well. All right, now, moving on to some information about that redistricting fight. I'm sure you remember this story. We talked about this a couple of months ago. There was a Utah Supreme Court justice who was sleeping with the lawyer that was fighting for a Democrat district to be redistricted into the new map that Utah was working on. So this Supreme Court justice had a romantic relationship with this leftist lawyer that was helping Democrats create this congressional seat. In November, the Utah 3rd District Court struck down the congressional map that was crafted by the Republican-led state legislature, and they said that it was an unconstitutional gerrymander, and they replaced it with a map that was drawn by left-wing plaintiffs. So basically, the Democrats gained a seat in a state that had previously been +4 Republican, +0 for Democrats. So, they just carved up areas of each of 3 districts. And then they basically created this Democrat-run district in the center of the state. I want to say that's probably where Salt Lake City is. But the problem is the Utah Supreme Court did not block the new congressional map that would have given the Democrats a seat. That was an unconstitutional gerrymander, in my opinion. And then after that decision was made, it came out last month that Supreme Court Justice Diana Hagan was having sex with this attorney, David Raymond. He was the redistricting guy. Now, Spencer Cox and other state officials launched an investigation into this sexual relationship that was undisclosed that should have disqualified her, or they should have gotten a different lawyer to handle this case. It was also her ex-husband that came forward and said, my bitch ex-wife is sleeping with that lawyer. So Utah's governor, Senate president, and House Speaker launched this investigation into Diana Hagan. The allegations are detailed in a complaint submitted late last year by both Chief Justice Matthew Durant and the Judicial Conduct Commission. And the complaint stated, through public records requests, came from a Provo-based attorney who said Hagan's ex-husband told him the justice had exchanged inappropriate text messages with David Raymond and one of the attorneys involved in a case about redistricting, which led to Utah getting this gerrymandered map. Hagan, of course, denied the allegations, said that they were totally false, never had this relationship. However, it was announced by Governor Cox on Friday that he had received a resignation letter from Diana Hagan. So she's actively resigning from the Utah State Supreme Court, which she didn't need to do unless she was actually screwing that lawyer inappropriately. Today, Governor Cox received a letter of resignation from Supreme Court Justice Diana Hagan. Effective immediately, the governor appreciates Hagan's years of service. Additional information regarding the process to fill the vacancy will be announced in the coming days. So I don't know if that has any impact on perhaps a future fight to change this map. I don't know if the DOJ is planning to go into Utah and fight for the map to be redrawn the way that it was before. But it seems that this map right here likely could have an argument to suggest that it is gerrymandered in some way. But I think that Utah is overwhelmingly white, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how many people of descent other than, European live there, or if the conversation surrounded making this a majority-minority district went at the time that they made it. But all of that will come out. We'll see. All right. Now, we do have a total victory in the situation with the Virginia redistricting fight. The decision has come down from the state Supreme Court, and the Democrats and the leftists have utterly lost that fight for the Democrat-dominated district gerrymandered map. The referendum has been determined to be unconstitutional. This is a massive win for law and order, a massive win for election integrity. So the Democrat Party's gerrymandered referendum map has been 100% struck down by the Virginia Supreme Court. And that is, of course, a devastating blow. We figured this was going to happen. But, you know, it could have gone either way. The decision was tight. It was a 6-5 split. And I am shocked that it was as close as it was. But, of course, you know, it's Virginia. There's a lot of deep state elements there. Now, no need to go through the history on this. We've already studied this and talked about it from a bunch of different perspectives, but suffice to say, this is a major win. And so the maps are going to be going back to what they were before. This will, of course, allow the Democrats to maintain their edge. You know, it was a 6-5 map previously. They had sought to change it to a 10-1 supermajority. But that's not happening, and they're going to be able to go back to what it was. Now, of course, if the election system is fixed, then there is a high possibility that, you know, people may get voted out of office, especially after all of this has come forward. Let's see. Principled Enigma says the same needs to be done with Obama. He was not born in any part of this country. Yes, I agree with you there. Lee Walden also said the blatant disregard for the law and their immorality is stunning. The wolves aren't at the gates. They are inside our home. I'm confident that divine justice will prevail. The reckoning is here. I agree with you, my friend. Filter Dog also says Charlotte City Council can appoint a communist. It sounds like from the language that Mayor Lyles gave that there actually will be an election. So I wasn't certain if it would be an appointment by some other figure or if it would end up being an election. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie as well. I appreciate you, buddy. All right. Now, considering the fact that Hakeem Jeffries had a major part to play in this redistricting effort. In fact, it was his money basically that paid for this redistricting effort. He was very upset at the decision coming down from the Virginia State Supreme Court. Before we get into his comments, you guys, I do have a quick question. How much control do you have over your own money? Because right now, technology is changing rapidly. Everything is changing, and it's especially changing how money works. When crypto started years ago, it was kind of a niche, but now it's basically mainstream. You get faster payments, more control over your money, fewer middlemen taking chunks and chiseling little bits off. It's not hype. It's now really where things are going. And getting started today is a lot easier than you might think. This is where the new Rumble Wallet comes in. With Rumble Wallet, you can buy Bitcoin. You can hold dollar-backed stablecoins. You can even own digital gold backed by real gold all in one place. And setup is super simple. It's going to connect with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, your debit card, or your bank account, and you can be up and running in minutes. It's not really about the amount. It's really about getting in early, understanding what comes next, how to use it. And once you get all set up, you just connect your Rumble account. You can then start to tip your favorite Rumble creators. That might be me. That might be somebody else. No matter who it is, I'm sure they'll appreciate it. So right now, you can scan that QR code on screen, or you can just click the link in the description or the link in the chat and download the Rumble Wallet. You can also just go to the App Store on your device, tap buy once you get it downloaded and installed, and you get signed in and you're in the game. So take control of your own money now and get started with the Rumble Wallet today. Thank you very much to Rumble. Okay, so let's see. Hakeem Jeffries, House Minority Leader, is now learning the hard way that it's a bad idea to shoot your mouth off before the process has concluded. So now with this gerrymandering referendum decision coming down 4-3, overturning this unconstitutional effort, we have these comments from Hakeem Jeffries. Hang on just a sec. Let me go into this view right here. All right. Now, Jeffries had this to say just the day after the vote, because he, like others, thought that they were basically successful in stealing Virginia. Our message to Florida voters is F around and find out. If they go down the road of a DeSantis dummy-mander, Florida Republicans are going to find themselves in the same situation as Texas Republicans.
Our message to Florida Republicans is F around and find out. If they go down the road of a DeSantis dummy-mander, the Florida Republicans are going to find themselves in the same situation as Texas Republicans, who are on the run right.
Ain't nobody on the run, boy. That's not how it's going down. I think it's actually Hakeem Jeffries who's finding out what it's like to F around and find out.
See, as you can see, the more you F around, the more you're going to find out.
So after this decision was handed down, he said the decision to overturn an election is unprecedented, undemocratic action that cannot stand. Well, the only thing is that the state Supreme Court, that's it, homie. This humiliation could have been avoided if the Virginia Democrats had listened to legal experts who, when this whole thing began to roll out, former Attorney General Keith Cuccinelli, who I've quoted on the show before, warned at the very beginning, this process violated multiple provisions of the Virginia Constitution. Those violations included improper timing and notice requirements, as well as the misleading way the Democrats wrote the questions so they could trick voters. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they thought they could get away with it, but they couldn't. You see, they effed around, and they find out. And Hakeem Jeffries himself is finding a F around, find out moment in a way that I don't think he was prepared for. Because President Trump has now linked the attempted assassin from the White House Correspondents' Dinner directly to Hakeem Jeffries, and he is demanding criminal charges. President Trump earlier yesterday linked these two, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and, of course, what's his name? Whoever the guy was that showed up at the Correspondents' Dinner. President Trump said this lunatic, Hakeem Low IQ Jeffries, should be charged for inciting violence. And then President Trump posted an image of Jeffries standing by a photo of Trump that had the words maximum warfare everywhere all the time on it. Next to that was an image from a video that showed accused gunman Corey Thomas Allen as he arrived at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The radical left Democrats actually want to destroy our country, President Trump said. When Jeffries was asked about the comments he made after the attempt on Trump's life, he said, I stand by it. Jeffries also mocked the so-called criticism from these phony Republicans. And he also called Caroline Leavitt a stone-cold liar for highlighting the violent rhetoric that Democrats have spewed over the years. There's nothing lying about that. I mean, this is real. This has happened for a very long time. And I think that's exactly what their intention was. I mean, they intended for people to commit acts of violence. They intended to have their political enemies murdered. They intended to have their political enemies physically assaulted. Hakeem Jeffries is just mad that people are paying attention, that people are seeing this. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many supercuts of Democrats basically calling for violence you can see out there on the internet. He said, you can continue to criticize me for it. I don't give a damn about the criticism. Get lost, when asked about the attempt on President Trump's life. And Congressman Randy Fine said, so-called Hakeem Jeffries is a disgrace to the United States Congress. He is deranged, disgusting, and violent. It is unacceptable that House Democrats continue to remain silent in the aftermath of this call for maximum warfare everywhere, all the time, against Republicans. The casual acceptance of hateful and divisive language enables this out-of-control behavior. Democrats must hold Hakeem accountable. I don't think they're going to. There's no way. They have no desire to do so. They enjoy the tone and tenor of the conversation. You know, I mean, just like James Comey posting the 8647, in addition to everything else that he said, he knew exactly what he was doing. All right. And now his trial date has been set. North Carolina District Judge Louise Flanagan, who is an appointee of George W. Bush, has tentatively scheduled James Comey's criminal trial for July 15th. Now, this is a state trial, I think. No, I can't tell. I know this is definitely going to be a federal trial. So that means there's not going to be any cameras in the courtroom. We'll end up getting pictures and stuff that people draw. But the The trial date might be moved. I'm certain that Comey and his lawyers are they're going to continue to try to get it dismissed. They're going to make claims on First Amendment grounds, I'm certain. And they may try to have the case delayed so that, they can get access to more information, et cetera, et cetera. All of the usual tricks that they use. Now, this is from ABC News saying that the tentative date of July 15th charges that he allegedly threatened to kill President Donald Trump by posting the 8647 shells on the beach. In the order that was written by Judge Flanagan, she has scheduled that trial. And after his appearance in North Carolina originally was set for Monday, but it was canceled, Comey will be arraigned on June 30th. Comey's lawyers have previewed that their plan to move to dismiss the case very soon. His pretrial conference is scheduled to take place before May 29th. So, yeah, I mean, again, I think James Comey knew exactly what he was doing. This was not an accident. Count 1, knowingly and willfully making a threat to take the life of and to inflict broadly harm upon the President of the United States. Count 2, knowingly and willfully did transmit in interstate and foreign commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill the President of the United States. You have the right to freedom of speech here in the United States. However, that speech comes with certain qualifiers. And, generally speaking, you can make statements based on commentary or opinion. But what is not covered by freedom of speech is threats of harm to the President of the United States. And I go back to what Todd Blanche had said, that the indictment handed down by the grand jury is not solely based on the picture you saw on Instagram. Of course, that was the pretext to an investigation. And the investigation resulted in witnesses, in communications, on a whole host of various things, which gives the Department of Justice the power to present evidence to the grand jury, and for the grand jury to find that, yes, we believe James Comey did these things right here. All of that will be presented at trial. A jury of James Comey's peers will be the ones who will decide whether or not he's guilty. Now, this is the U.S. attorney which will be trying James Comey. Let's take a listen.
Today, a grand jury in the Eastern District of North Carolina returned a true bill indicting Mr. James Comey with committing 2 felonies. Count 1, he knowingly and willfully made a threat to kill and to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States in violation of 18 U.S.C. 871A. Count 2.
Now, I feel like this guy's serious, okay? He's a bit of a bulldog. I've looked into him. I think he's going to do a great job. But I get the feeling that he doesn't like James Comey, which is exactly what you want in a prosecutor who's going to put somebody away for the next 20 years of their life.
2, he knowingly and willfully transmitted in interstate and foreign commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill President Trump in violation of 18 U.S.C. 875C. Mr. Comey will be given every form of due process all citizens are entitled to receive, to include a trial by a jury of his peers.
Yes, and True Kells, the peers in this case would be citizens of the district where James Comey has been charged. So, citizens, people who live in this area in North Carolina, which is a Trump area. And the people who will be sitting on that jury, I think, are going to be more inclined to indict James Comey, certainly than they would if it was in Washington, D.C. Those would be more closely aligned with people you would, expect to see as a true peer of James Comey, somebody he's going to go have dinner with, or the people he's going to invite to his Christmas party or a bris or something like that. But no, definitely in this instance, peers is specifically referencing the good people of North Carolina.
In the Eastern District of North Carolina, it doesn't matter who you are. We take all threat cases seriously and prosecute anyone who violates federal law, regardless of title or status.
And that is the best thing we can hope for, is that James Comey, although he has lived this life of privilege and access, a life rife with criminality and cover-ups, who knows the dark things James Comey has seen? Well, now he's going to have an opportunity to pay for all of them, because I don't think it's going to end with this particular investigation. All right, now, a couple of months ago, I made fun of certain members of the public who hustle based upon race and tropes, okay? And people thought I was just making fun of black people. Well, all black people don't talk like this guy. But there is a certain category of political and racial hucksters who use this exaggerated form of communication. It's sort of a bastardized take on the on Martin Luther King, or just a general black preacher affect, and they will use that to hype up people and make them feel that racial injustice is all pervasive in their lives and must be addressed. So you can comedically make fun of the way somebody talks, and it doesn't mean you're making fun of an entire group of people. Now, this is a perfect example of the voice and affectation that I used. This is Representative Justin Pearson. He serves in the Texas State House. And during the redistricting vote the other day, Pearson got into it with Tennessee state troopers. He was very rude. He was very dismissive. But this goes to show you, when we compare Mr. Pearson's affect in 2016 to his affect in 2026, just how dead on I was. My assertion was that these people are acting. These people are putting on a performance because they want to influence your mind, and they want to make you believe something that isn't true. And that's exactly what Justin Pearson does here. Listen to Justin and the way he spoke back in 2016 compared to the way he spoke in the midst of that vote the other day.
Justin J. Pearson, and I'm running for president of PSG. There are a few reasons that we're running this campaign this year. One has to do with representation. How can we represent all voices in a conversation? I wanted to do this by partnering with organizations from the Boone Democrats to the Boone Republicans. I want to bring together different voices, dissenting voices, voices that may be more liberal or more conservative.
So 10 years ago, Justin Pearson just spoke like a normal person. Okay, it's obvious that he's even articulate. And he's talking about bringing people together from various ends of the political spectrum. It's a noble gesture. Good for you, Justin. But something happened along the way. Somebody kicked him in, clued him in to the race hustle. And Justin bought it hook, line, and sinker.
In order that we can reach a point of sort of the radical middle.
Here, you've had 3 strikes laws, mass incarceration, denied us of who we are, and we are still here. And today, you'll take the only majority black district from us. But I want you to know, and I want my nephew, sons, and the future to know, no matter what you do, no matter how much you try and break us and make us bend and make us quit, we will still be here.
Justin J.
Guy's a fake. Guy's a total fake. All right? That's not how he talks on the regular. This is just how he performs when he's in front of a camera or when he wants to rile up the base. And so this is a perfect example of what I was doing. And I was really shocked And how many people thought I was just making fun of black people? No, that's obviously not what I'm doing. You know, I'm always shocked when people are upset that I do any accents at all. It's comedic. It's meant to be satirical. And I guess that when people don't understand the concept of satire, let me give you a great example. There's a young man from Africa, emigrated to the United States. He's a comedian. He was on a podcast, and he did a joke about the theme song from The Lion King. I don't know the words because it's in African, some African language. And he translated it. Somebody asked him, what does it mean? And he said, oh my God, look over there. It's a lion. That's not exactly what it says, but it was funny. It was just a joke. The man who wrote the theme song to The Lion King sued this comedian for $27 million. $27 million, and had him served while he was on stage. Great content. But of course, now this guy's got to deal with this frivolous lawsuit. That's kind of what I think when people get upset about somebody making a joke, doing some type of comedic thing. Like, can we get over ourselves? Like, that's what I think. Yeah, what a homo. Exactly. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, totally chimping out over a joke. Over a joke. All right, now, we got to talk a little bit about some issues surrounding immigration. Now, 2020, the year they stole the election from President Trump, 9 out of 10 American jobs went to foreign-born workers. That is since 2020. Okay, obviously things have changed a lot now. Now, the average median income of an Indian emigrating to the United States is $152,341. The average median income for a white employed American is $81,513. Now, keeping in mind, there's a lot of people who make a hell of a lot less than $81,513. I definitely fall below the median income. But the median income for the people they were importing to the United States, taking 90% of the jobs, was nearly twice the median income for your average everyday American. Median income for U.S. households by ancestry, every single ancestry other than white is more than white people. Indians make $152,000. Taiwanese make $122,000. Filipinos make $109,000. Pakistanis make $106,000. Chinese make $101,000. Iranians, $99,000. Sri Lankan, $96,000. Japanese, $94,000. Lebanese, $92,000. Koreans, $91,000. Turkish, $87,000. Indonesians, $86,000. Vietnamese, $84,000. Israelis, $82,000. And whites at $81,000. $81,000. So quite literally, every single group that they were importing into the United States, they were rewarding them and paying them more. Meanwhile, they're lowering the standard of living. They're lowering the median income for people who are just born here. And it's really disgusting. Now, again, this is from Official Layoff. Official Layoff is a great account to follow to get these kinds of statistics. Take a look right here. Again, 9 out of 10 new jobs since 2020 went to someone who was born outside of the United States. During that time, there was a net gain of 4.3 million jobs that all went to foreigners. There was only a gain of 471,000 jobs for Americans. And the foreign-born workforce increased from 17.5% to 19.6%. Now, obviously, since President Trump took over, we are realigning those figures. We have lost hundreds of thousands of jobs inside the federal workforce. But there is still a major problem with the outsourcing of everyday jobs to people who were born outside of the United States. There is definitely been an increase in the private sector. I believe there's been like a net gain of over 4 million private sector jobs since President Trump came in, which is definitely good. But since President Trump returned, I don't know exactly how many of those jobs are going to native-born American citizens. But every single day, I really appreciate watching the account at Official Layoff. They also have a website, layoffhedge.com, so that you can keep track of every major layoff that is happening within a variety of industries in 2026, showing this shift of labor that is still continuing. And here's a company right here 2 hours ago that they announced, Kyndryl. They just cut 10,000 jobs. Probably never heard of them. They're a 2021 IBM company spinoff. There was a $2.25 billion expansion into India. They've only got 6,000 American workers left. Everything else has been offshored. 92% of Kyndryl's workforce is outside of the United States, and they are pushing all of their money across the ocean. And, of course, they've done this in so many different ways. Anyways, definitely follow Official Layoff for information about that. All right. Thank you to Keith O'Higgins. Keith, you're a sight for sore eyes. Zak Comey was guilty of intent when he bragged about his wife and daughters attended the January 21st, 2017 Pussy Hat March. I would say that they might use that. But there are far more things that Comey did that I think will prove his intent. Trisha says, did you know yesterday when you were talking about that psycho killer Tanner Horner that he was going to be on Texas's death row in Livingston, Texas? I almost applied for a job there just down the road. I did not. No. Lee Walden says, reminds me of Bummer. Thank you for that. Oh, Arizona Ladies has rated the stream. Thank you so much, Arizona Ladies. I appreciate you. Artsy Joan says, Mother's Day blessings to all you baddie moms. Have a wonderful weekend. Another great show ending the week, Zach. God bless. Thank you for that. And yes, I did want to say, first of all, happy Mother's Day to my beautiful mother. Thank you for being such a wonderful mom and doing such a great job with me. And happy Mother's Day to every single mother who's out there in the chat today. Or if you're going to be watching this afterwards, if you are a viewer of the channel, if you're a fan of Red Pill News and you hang out with us or you watch the show in the replays, happy Mother's Day to you as well. Then also thank you to Anarchist Owl, aliens, rah, 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 JK. The suspense is killing me, though. Despite being a flat earther, you don't know how bad I wanted Stargate to be real. I am with you, dude. I am like totally down with stuff existing out there in the universe. I'm just not convinced that we're going to get the truth about it, which is, you know, the thing that bums me out. Okay, and then that is it for that. Now, real briefly, you know, they're trying to say that President Trump's policies are pushing people away from voting for America first, voting for candidates that maybe he is supporting. I think that we just overcame that narrative a little bit in Indiana. But also, if you just look at raw fundraising numbers, which are highly, highly consequential when it comes to winning races, Republicans nationwide have raised more than $10 million more than Democrats. And Democrats seem to think they're on the verge of this like blue wave in the midterms. If they don't fix the election system, they may be able to fake something like that. But new data shows Republicans have got a major financial advantage, having raised over $10 million more than Democrats. But, okay, you know, money isn't everything, but it does definitely have an impact. So something to keep an eye on there. Also, earlier today, Senator Marsha Blackburn has announced that as a result of all of these scandals we keep seeing at the Secret Service, I didn't even talk about the Secret Service agent who got caught jacking off in the hallway outside of a woman's room the other day. What? They are not hiring the right people, okay? Like, I understand we need people to work in the Secret Service, but, like, you got to have a little bit of critical thinking about who these people are. Certainly, that type of person is not the kind of person we want protecting the president. So anyways, Marsha Blackburn sent this letter to Sean Curran. She said, Director Curran, I write to urge you to take immediate action to fully assess the USSS's ability to fulfill its protective mission. Your agency is charged with protecting the president, the vice president, cabinet officials, as well as providing physical security for the White House and the grounds. Yet nearly 2 weeks after an armed left-wing assassin infiltrated the White House Correspondents' Dinner and has been charged with an assassination attempt on the president's life, it is blatantly clear the Secret Service needs to be cleaned up. Had it not been for the brave agents who swiftly acted, many of the participants that evening, including the president, could have been sincerely harmed. Now, since President Trump returned to office, there have been several revelations that raise some serious doubts about the state of your agency and its ability to keep its protectees safe. First, 2 weeks before the April 25th White House Correspondents' Dinner incident, Secret Service investigators were unable to determine any identifying information about a gunman who fired shots near the White House in an unrelated incident on April 6th. To date, the gunman who fired these shots outside the president's residence has yet to be identified. There have been numerous other personnel incidents at your agency, including an agent faulted for security failures at the 2024 Butler rally, marrying a foreign national, an illegal alien without promptly notifying her superiors, an agent allegedly engaging in a massive tax fraud scheme, an agent being charged with murdering his brother. These are just a few of the many examples of personnel concerns that demonstrate a clear pattern of incompetence at the Secret Service that must be promptly addressed. Now, there are also broader questions about your agency's ability to promptly and properly vet and hire agents, which has resulted in continued manpower and morale issues. In one deeply disturbing example, it was recently reported that the Secret Service Uniform Division officer was arrested at a hotel in Miami for engaging in lewd conduct that falls well below the standard that Secret Service agents should aspire and be required to meet. And as I noted in my September 2025 letter to you, your agency employed an agent who suggested that Charlie Kirk deserved to be assassinated. At a time when President Trump faces increasing threats to his safety, including yet another assassination attempt, the Secret Service cannot afford to have individuals who engage in this kind of embarrassing, disgraceful conduct on its payroll. It's apparent the U.S. Secret Service is in desperate need of course correction. For these reasons, I urge you to immediately commence a full, thorough audit of every single employee on your payroll. Unless you root out the rot, our nation will suffer the consequences. Thank you for your prompt attention to this important issue. All right. Now, I absolutely agree with Senator Blackburn. There are many, many good men and women at the Secret Service, but there's also clearly some type of breakdown. I mean, Sean Curran inherited an agency that already had problems. Okay. Whether or not he has dealt with those problems, I think it's arguably true that they haven't been dealt with. Otherwise, we wouldn't continue to have all of these various things. Now, Ken Silva, JD Cashless, says you might want to start with the sniper who saw crooks crawling into place but still waited 15 seconds to return fire. And we know that because he said this in his own testimony. He was watching this guy crawl across the roof. I mean, he could have shot him in the shoulder or something. I mean, you know, there's a lot. There's a lot that could be done. And I feel like it's pretty clear that enough isn't being done. All right. Now, fraud, waste, and abuse. The current fraud task force. We have, first of all, a clip from J.D. Vance discussing the dramatic actions that were announced yesterday. We talked about with Todd Blanche, the denaturalization efforts that he promised would be rolled out. Now, that is obviously highly, highly relevant because today we had an announcement on several denaturalization cases that were hitting the federal courts. We also have a clip that I would like to play for you from the U.S. Attorney for Arizona talking about his participation in the West Coast Strike Force. Now, this is relevant because they just took down a major multinational drug dealing operation in MacArthur Park. Still not completely done, but we've also found massive healthcare fraud in the state of Arizona. So all of these things come into play. Let's hear from J.D. Vance on denaturalization, terrorism, fraud, etc.
Yeah, well, absolutely, and that's one of the angles that we're looking at is the people who committed immigration fraud against our system, and how do we denaturalize those people and send them back to where they came from. There's also, as you know, Will, under the Biden administration, there was a big blurring of the lines between illegal and legal immigration. The Biden administration would often take people who were coming in on fraudulent asylum claims, fraudulent refugee claims, and basically wave the magic wand of amnesty and say, we're not going to enforce the immigration laws against those people. The first thing, and maybe the most important thing that we did in the Trump administration, is that we stopped that from happening. But then you still have a lot of people who benefited from that Biden administration amnesty program. We're trying to unwind as much of that as possible. We've already had some success, by the way, Will, despite the fact that left-wing radicals in the justice system, the court system, have tried to stop us. We have been able to denaturalize and actually unwind that temporary protected status, a lot of those fraudulent asylum claims. So that work has been happening, but it's going to keep on happening so long as Donald Trump is president. I think Minneapolis is the tip of the iceberg. I think there's sort of a good news, bad news situation in that, Will, which, you know, the good news is that we're stopping the fraud that's happening against the American taxpayer. The bad news is that my own children will never be able to attend school at the Quality Leering Center. So, you know, you got.
Oh, that's good. That is so good. Okay. Now, let's hear from the U.S. Attorney in Arizona.
Difference between a strike force and a task force?
The idea behind the strike force is bringing.
And I realize that this is very quiet audio, so let me turn this up real quick. Okay, I just doubled the output, so hopefully that helps.
A bunch of different federal resources that can sometimes be siloed in different agencies, bringing them all together to focus on a specific problem.
Pulling more manpower from Washington, D.C. to focus on Nevada, Northern California, and Arizona. Federal prosecutors consider Arizona the 6th riskiest state for healthcare fraud.
We are 6th in the nation for flagged hospice care. Dangerous doctors with those billing practices of only billing the most expensive practices. We're 6th in the nation for that as well.
He tells me government programs like Medicare and Medicaid tend to pay out lower amounts on claims, but there's often less oversight, and crooks create complex webs to hide their schemes.
I heard the team talking about the money stolen is going back to taxpayers. When do we get our checks?
Yeah, everyone would love to see checks from the government, but what it is, it's this about the sustainability of the program for the future, right? There's a lot of worry about the future viability of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security programs, and that requires that we protect the dollars we have and use them efficiently.
What does success look like at the end of the day?
Success looks like 3 things. 1, bringing the bad guys to justice. 2, making it so no bad guys want to do it in the future. And 3, getting back what they stole.
Is there a
Son of a bitch, I just realized that I was talking with the mute button on. I apologize, guys. All right, so the DOJ is moving to revoke the citizenship of this former diplomat and convicted spy, Victor Manuel Roca. He was accused of fraudulently obtaining naturalization while serving as the, serving the Cuban regime for decades. So the message here is that they're laying down the foundation of denaturalization for all of these varying levels of crimes they will focus on crimes related to the immigration and naturalization process. So then it becomes only natural to roll that in and denaturalize somebody like Ilhan Omar. Oh, people are saying I wasn't muted. Okay, well, maybe I was muted for YouTube. Sorry, I guess I was muted for YouTube. So we're going to start here with Victor Manuel Roca. He was not a low-level operative. He was a former United States ambassador and a senior government official who admitted to secretly serving the Cuban regime for decades. The Southern District of Florida helped take down one of the most prolific Cuban spies ever uncovered in the U.S. This civil denaturalization case is about finishing the job. The complaint alleges that Roca obtained American citizenship through lies, concealment, and betrayal. A person who secretly serves communist Cuba should not keep the privilege of United States citizenship, even while in prison. That's Jason Redding Quinones, Captain America, the same U.S. attorney that is overseeing the grand conspiracy grand jury. Now, the Department of Justice also announced denaturalization actions in a variety of U.S. courts all around the country. 12 different individuals accused of a variety of serious offenses. That includes providing material support to a terrorist group, committing war crimes, sexually abusing minors. The Trump administration is taking action to correct these egregious violations of our immigration system. Those who intentionally concealed these criminal histories or misrepresented themselves during the naturalization process will face the fullest extent of the law. That came from Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. So let's take a look at the actual press release so we can see who these people are. Individuals implicated in committing fraud, heinous crimes such as sexual abuse or expressing support for terrorism should never have been naturalized. The Trump administration is taking action to correct these egregious violations. Those who intentionally concealed their criminal histories or misrepresented themselves during the naturalization process will face the fullest extent of the law. The Department of Justice continues to file denaturalization actions at record speeds to restore integrity to the process. The disturbing criminal histories confirm these individuals never should have been naturalized. Okay, so number one, we have Ali Youssef Ahmed Al-Nouri. He's 48. He's from Iraq. On Friday, May 8th, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a civil denaturalization claim against him in the district court in Phoenix, Arizona. He entered the United States in 2009 based on a claim that he and his families were attacked by al-Qaeda. In 2019, the Republic of Iraq requested that the U.S. extradite him to face criminal charges for the premeditated murder of 2 Iraqi police officers in 2006. Iraq claims Ahmed murdered the police officers as a leader in the al-Qaeda terrorist organization. Upon further investigation, the U.S. learned that in 2015, Ahmed illegally procured his naturalization, which warrants his denaturalization because he lied under oath about his criminal history and family history when he sought admission to the U.S. Number 2, Oscar Alberto Pelaez. He's 75 and he's from Colombia. Let's see. He was a Colombian Roman Catholic priest who from 1998 to 2000 sexually abused a child on multiple locations from the time that child was 14 until they were 17. In 2002, Pelaez pled guilty and was convicted of 13 counts of sexual assault, including 2 counts of oral copulation with a person under 18 years of age and 2 counts of sodomy of a person under 18 years of age. He lied about the commission of these crimes in connection with his naturalization application, and the U.S. is making good to get him the hell out of this country because he knowingly lied to immigration authorities. Khalid Kazani, 48, from Morocco. He applied for citizenship in 2005 and was naturalized in 2006. He swore to adhere to the principles of the Constitution. The oath was false because as early as 2003, Khalid was planning, with 2 men later convicted of trying to bomb the New York Stock Exchange, ways to support al-Qaeda. By 2007, just 1 year after he was naturalized, he sent al-Qaeda tens of thousands of dollars in financial support money that he had fraudulently obtained, and in 2008, he took an oath of allegiance to that terrorist organization. In May 2010, he pled guilty to bank fraud, money laundering, and providing material support to al-Qaeda. So he's being denaturalized. We have Salah Osman Ahmed, 43, of Somalia. Let's see. Ahmed was naturalized in 2007. A couple of months later, he began providing material support to terrorists. He traveled to Somalia to fight and kill Ethiopians and joined al-Shabaab. In 2009, he pled guilty to providing material support to terrorists. And he had membership with al-Shabaab within 5 years of naturalization, so we're kicking him out. Babakar Mahbub, age 58, from Gambia. Let's see. While he was serving as a military police officer in Gambia, he participated along with 15 other soldiers in the execution of 6 officers following orders from a commanding officer who believed the victims were plotting a counter coup against the president. None of them were given a trial. Mahbub concealed this war crime in acts of persecution through the naturalization process. He arrived in 2002, was naturalized in 2011, and during the Gambian Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparations Committee hearing on April 9th of 2019, Mahbub admitted to the executions. He's going away. Kevin Robin Suarez, 31, of Bolivia. He came into the U.S. in 2016. He was naturalized in 2017. While here, he engaged in a conspiracy to purchase firearms through straw purchasers for the eventual exportation of those firearms to Bolivia and other Latin American countries. He worked with his sister to solicit individuals to purchase the firearms from licensed firearm dealers and then provide those firearms to his father. The firearms were part of a larger network of gun traffickers from South Florida to Bolivia by Bolivian nationals in the U.S. Once in Bolivia, those guns were often sent to drug trafficking organizations in Brazil, Paraguay, and Peru, fueling drug violence. Suarez pled guilty to conspiracy to cause false statements, and that was in 2020. And then Abduvosit Razikov, 46, from Uzbekistan. He got here in 2005. And in 2007, he paid another U.S. citizen to enter into a sham marriage. Now, I want you to remember all of these different crimes because there's a number of them that you could proscribe to Ilhan Omar. So he got this sham marriage. In 2010, he divorced the U.S. citizen, and then in 2012, he naturalized. And then this time, he entered. In 2005, when he got here, 2007, he paid for a marriage. And then they broke up in 2010 and got a divorce. In 2012, he naturalized. A couple of months later, he enters into a third sham marriage. He married another Uzbeki woman, not his own romantic partner, so that she could obtain immigration benefits. And then basically they figured it all out. And now they're kicking him out. Abdullah Osman Sheikh, 28, of Kenya. He's from Kentucky, living in Kentucky. In 2019, before he was naturalized, he was serving in the Marines. He possessed indecent digital images of 2 minor individuals and posted an indecent digital image of them to his main social media account. And he's been hit with those charges. He's not going to get kicked out, and he's been dishonorably discharged from the Marines. Debashis Ghosh, 62, of India. He conspired to defraud investors of $2.5 million intended for the construction of an aircraft maintenance facility. After naturalizing, he continued the fraudulent scheme, misrepresented the location and safekeeping of the investor funds. In 2012, on his naturalization application, he claimed he had never committed a crime, but of course he did, so now he's not going to be here anymore. Pin He, 53, of China. He was ordered removed under the name Chun Di He in 1992. He applied for an immigration benefit the very next year using a new fake identity. The application was granted, and in 2007, he got permanent residency. In 2013, he was naturalized under the new identity, and because he never disclosed the fact that it was a fake identity, he was able to get through. They figured it out. Now he's leaving. We have George Okehire, 66, of Nigeria, also naturalized under a false identity. Victor Manuel Roca, the man who we just talked about, native of Colombia, and he is being denaturalized because he was a spy for Cuba. Now, again, we have issues with the Ilhan Omar marriage. We have issues with her identity. We have issues with her family having committed war crimes in Somalia. We have issues of varying types of fraud. that were committed using her company's federal funds and the Somali businesses. We can also prove, and they've already stated this, that much of the money that was stolen through these various scams by Somali business owners ended up in the hands of Al-Shabaab. So we are like 1 degree of separation for Ilhan Omar having committed material support of terrorists. She's also openly talked shit about the United States of America. So I believe that what we're seeing here is a foundation to be laid, which will lead to inevitably Ilhan Omar and being denaturalized. So excited about that. Also, you may remember several months ago, I brought you the report from Peter Schweitzer that Mexican consulates in the United States were actually funding a lot of the left-wing violence through these Hispanic non-governmental organizations here in the United States, like La Migra and a number of others. Well, the United States government is now openly reviewing every single Mexican consulate here in the United States, and they have said that it is directly related to Peter Schweitzer's report, The Invisible Coup. The administration is now taking action against these Mexican consulates, and considering the actions we're taking in Mexico to indict Mexican politicians and go after the drug lords and the cartels, wow, there may be a major push to dump all of these Mexican consulates across the country. This could be big in terms of stopping the flow of not only drugs, but also criminal cartels here in the United States, and of course, money going directly to fund these left-wing organizations. Also, one more aspect of this is President Trump's new national security push, directly looking at these non-governmental organizations and their overt left-wing communist actions here in the U.S. So this may have a counter-terrorism spin on it as well. Definitely excited to see where that goes. Let's see. You know what? I think we're going to hold off on talking about the aliens. I'll talk about this on Monday because I really do want to look through all of these files and see if there's anything that I think is, really a big deal or not, or if it's all kind of just meant to distract. I don't really think that it is because it's President Trump, it's his administration that's bringing it out. So regardless, final message over here from our friends on Rumble. You guys have probably noticed that Rumble is not slowing down. They're growing fast, and they're building a real alternative to big tech, a place that's going to put creators first and protect free speech. So they now have Rumble Premium. Rumble Premium is a very easy way to upgrade your experience. With Rumble Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the entire platform. That means no pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content that you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and even more. I play video games a couple of times a month and play with my friends or play alone. But right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. And to get that, you just go to rumble.com/premium and then make sure you use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. Once again, that's rumble.com/premium with the promo code STUDIO, and you got that $10 off the annual subscription. You can also use the QR code that you see on screen or the link that you're going to find in the chat. Thank you very much to Rumble, and thank you to everybody for joining us today. Let me see. Finally, let me say thank you to Lee Walden. He says, thanks, Zach. You continue to master your ship of truth. Breath of fresh air. Thanks, brother. Stay the course, you salty dog. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. All right. And then finally, thank you to... Let's see, Sean Joe for the cookie. Filter Dog says, the good news is the D's wasted so much money in the Virginia debacle they cannot spend for the midterms. Yeah, I want to say that Hakeem Jeffries spent like $140 million on that effort in Virginia. So yeah, probably. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 more cookies. One Thunder, thank you for the can. And Willie Break It, thank you for the cookie as well. All right, you guys, that will be all. Thank you for being here. Good luck. God bless. And I hope to see you Monday at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. Check out all the other sponsors of the program in the description of this video. And every time you support them, you are supporting this program in some small way. Plus, you're going to get awesome American-made products from Patriot-owned businesses, many of whom are in the chats with you guys at various times. And you're also going to be doing good things for your own body. Okay, and also tonight, 10:30, I'll be on OnlyLands if you want to join me there. But otherwise, have a great weekend. I might also play some video games on Sunday. We'll see. Keep your eyes and ears open. Peace. Don't forget to hit the like button.